Are you ready? You won't be needing those here. Welcome to the Enclave.
Good to see you, everyone. My name is Robby Howell. I am joined, as always, by three excellent players, one of whom is getting water right now. But that's not to make a difference to our itinerary, because we're going to play some Enclave today. Once again, for those of you to whom this is new, Enclave is a diceless tabletop role-playing game. And thanks for the demonstration. And before we jump into anything else, just know that if you're interested in learning a little bit more about Enclave, you can find a YouTube channel with a bunch more details about the game, linked somewhere convenient, as well as a Discord server that has a very active community and tons of games being played all the time. Not to mention, we're on DDG semi-often these days, hosting missions pretty regularly with a rotating cast of characters. Speaking of aforementioned rotating cast of characters, we'll, of course, wait for our final member until water is claimed. But for the other two, beginning with Kat, would you mind introducing yourself and very briefly mentioning your character? You'll get more of a chance to momentarily.
Kat, otherwise known here on the Twitchverse as Cheese Cat. Those who've been around know me. Tonight I will be playing Justine YL. She is a wanderer. She is a beautiful brown-skinned woman with thick, curly, dark hair, professional belly dancer extraordinaire who can move silently regardless of all of her coins, and endless pockets. Yes, that is right. Everyone who wears a skirt or ladies' jeans, you heard me right. Endless pockets. Because we demand pockets.
And nextly, Lee, would you mind introducing yourself and your character?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Lee. I help work with Robby sometimes on this game. I'm going to be playing Vatim, who is a sort of, Tsarist Russia era style, sort of steam engineer who got roped into a revolution. His name is Vatim. He's a short, stout fellow, sort of North Siberian features, sort of darker skin, heavier set brow, a little bit of stubble, and I'm just here to do my job, and hopefully, the person with pockets is going to help that work.
And
I have
lastly,
regular pockets.
And lastly, yourself and your character.
Wait, you're talking to me?
Oh, yes, please. You were getting water earlier.
Okay, you didn't say a name. All you said was lastly, and I was like, I don't, what?
Oh, pardon.
Well, sorry, we're good. Hello, hi, I'm Avalon. I use she, her, or they, them pronouns, and I am playing Rhiannon, a gunslinger, mid-40s mom, who is out for revenge, among other things, and is hoping that the Enclave will help her do that in a sort of long-term goals way.
Lovely. Now, these three players have already given me focus words. Again, focus words are words or very short phrases, not in this case though, that I use as inspiration to generate a mission on the spot. Normally this comes to me pretty quickly, but today it didn't, and I'll show you why momentarily. Here are my bloody focus words for this miserable thing. First one, Contortion of the Third River. That is one focus word. 2, Fairest and Fallen, Greetings and Defiance. That's another focus word. Lastly, Metabolic Rate of Water Bears.
Yeah.
Do you see what I have to deal with here? Like, lost my damn notebook.
Oh,
Okay,
you
but
love us.
it took me a little while to figure something out, but I finally come up with something, and because of that, I have a mission statement prepared for all of you. Once again, all of the information I'm giving to you is known in character, but the questions you can ask are out of character, though the answers are again known in character. This is your opportunity to learn a little bit more about what you'll be doing today. So, you are being sent to a high altitude court. This place has presided over a vast, sprawling valley full of prosperous feudal fiefdoms for quite some time, many centuries, in fact. And it has surrounded itself with a great crown of snow-capped mountains that imposingly dominate the plains and can be seen for almost 100 miles in any direction. Now, part of the reason this court has been so successful is it has brokered a peace with the local non-human population, specifically a strange group of diminutive beings called Mog. And Mog are, while you might think of them as like a goblin or something, they're not quite that. They are creatures of snow, possibly not even of flesh and blood. And while individually they may seem to be kind of chattering and silly and kind of ineffectual, there is a deep intelligence behind them that is spearheaded by their queen. Now, the Mog Queen has for quite some time enabled great prosperity in this region, partially because she controls the weather and therefore allows enormously beneficial crop cycles to happen in the fields and valleys, but also because she controls all of the meltwater. Which in an area like this means that you need that as well as rain in order to have your crops prospering, because her meltwater enables a great deal of rivers to spread wildly through the plains and valleys below. There have been times when the court and the Mog are not on great terms, and this is one of those times. The snow has turned red, and no one knows why. The Mog attacked viciously and unpromptedly. And now they have stormed the court, stormed all of their high fortifications, defeated all but the most elite rearmost contingent of guards, and are making for the palace courtyard, which contains the spring, the very source of all of the water in this region that is then added to by meltwater from the mountain peaks. The king is dead. Many of the ministers and the royal line are also dead at this point. A very small group still survives, and the Mog are led by their queen, who for the first time in known memory and recorded history cannot be reasoned with. Your goal is, simply put, to drive the Mog Queen off by any means necessary before she causes more damage. The one benefit you have at your disposal is that she seems to be moving very quickly and without anywhere near the amount of poise and caution that she normally does, and as such, she doesn't have nearly as big a force, as many of them are still behind looting the rest of the city in which the court dwells. You guys are porting directly into the palace courtyard, and you can expect to face ice magic as well as her many Mog warriors. The only allies you will have at your side are the royal guards and refugees that have dwelled in the courtyard for protection. There is no other way out. People have tried. This is a complete backed into a corner position. Questions?
Yeah, I have a quick one, and maybe this is me being a little finicky, but you started with the snow turned red. Is that literal? Did the snow turn red before the attack?
Yep, that's the only thing that heralded it, and it started snowing red snow less than an hour before the attack. The attack happened less than an hour ago from when you are porting in, and the city is thoroughly in the throes of war as it has been blitzed from all sides.
Are there any other Fae-adjacent beings that dwell in this realm that are known entities?
The Mog would not best be classified as Fae, although I guess there's not really a better word for it. So it's not fully accurate, I guess, to preempt anything else along those lines. But to answer your question, there are no other known non-humans within this realm.
Do we know how the Mog reproduce?
The best guess people have is that they are made from snow. But this has been a topic of great contention for quite some time. The only other thing that is known is that the Mog Queen is very fond of her Mog, but is fond of them in a way that someone might be fond of a Beanie Baby. You know what I mean? Like, they are possessions to her, distinctly.
And this is a snow-capped, snow-covered courtyard that we're porting into.
Well, typically it's not snow-covered. Her control over the weather actually allows the court itself to enjoy very pleasant temperatures despite the snow-capped mountains, but the red snow and the bitter cold that has descended upon it heralding the attack has changed that.
Okay.
Other questions?
Have there been any reports in an increase in the number of Mogs?
It's always hard to say because people normally see them like you might see deer in the woods. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, look, there's some Mog out today, darling. How interesting. There was not a notable increase in Mog populations spotted, but then again, there's not really like they're not often seen except on the verges, anyways.
Okay.
Other questions?
Yeah, are there any like fringe groups among the courts or the people near in that area that are like anti-Mog, people that were against the peace, or you know, what's the term? Like reactionary groups that are like anti-Mog?
Yeah, there are plenty of people that find them unnerving. Some even consider them pests because even though Mog tend to keep to themselves, again, I'll go with the deer analogy here, they can cause a little bit of trouble now and again. They are playful creatures when they're not warlike. And because of that, they have been known to, destroy someone's crop field here or there. Not ideal. But the people who suffer these issues are recompensated by the court. And so there are plenty of people who mistrust them. Plenty of people who are unnerved by them. There has never been any serious proposal to break the peace.
Okay. Are there any like organized efforts against them, or is it just like like with the deer analogy, it's just like everyone is aware that they're a little bit annoying, that they're a little bit destructive?
Exactly. Everyone's aware of it, but people are terrified to lay finger on them.
For
the queen,
obvious reasons.
Yes, the queen is very possessive of them. Even though like she's been known to like kind of throw them away sometimes, it's like that's my thing to throw away, not yours.
Fair. Okay.
Other questions?
You say the queen is possessive. Are the Mogs individuals, or is there like a hive mind?
Best guess, it has been compared to an ant colony at times. So there is probably some element of a hive mind at play, even if it is probably not nearly as literal. Final questions?
No.
Do the Mogs interact with technology at all? Do they have their own technology, or is it all like you mentioned, I think, like cold magic or something similar?
The Mog are not themselves magical, though they do have an affinity for snow, for want of a better term. Typically, when they have been known to march to war, and for the record, when the few times this kingdom has actually been attacked, the Mogs have actually fought alongside them, with the queen at their back. And in such cases, they have been known to wield basic weapons made of like magical ice that the queen produces for them.
Okay.
So in summary, they do not have sophisticated technology, and when presented with it, they seem indifferent to it.
Right. Okay.
Other
Do
questions?
They have a language of their own?
They are known to talk, though their talking has only ever been characterized as kind of like incomprehensible whistling.
Okay. So it's a race of like snowy R2-D2s?
Kind of think of that. They're faster though.
Hey, dude's got some speed. But
But
they can understand Metro. They understand the average.
They have been known
tongue.
to. They seem to be able to understand when spoken to, and their queen speaks many languages fluently, including Metro.
Okay.
In that case, let's move on to assembly. Again, your characters are aware of everything that we have just discussed. You are brought to a meeting room within Enclave HQ. Again, for anyone watching for the first time, the Enclave is an interdimensional mercenary organization, for want of a better term, at the heart of an infinite world. This mission they are teleporting out to is one of an unlimited number of potential worlds within this overarching realm of Manifold. And the only thing that is omnipresent within Manifold is the Enclave. And inside of this hallowed, mysterious, eerie institution, the three of you convene in a beautifully decorated meeting room adorned only in shades of gray. Let us say that your characters all arrive at roughly the same time. As of now, you are in character, though, of course, as you might expect, you are able to, out of character, ask questions, describe what you're doing, anything of that nature. Fire away. If you need prompting, we'll begin with Vadim.
So I will sort of look to the two individuals who I have not met, and I will move to the closest one, who I will just, for arbitrary purposes, say is Rhiannon.
Mm-hmm.
And will approach, again, shorter individual, and offer out a hand and say, "A pleasure to meet you, my friend. My name is Vadim."
Rhiannon is sitting there running a whetstone over her knife blade and just doing some like general maintenance on it while waiting. Looks up. Oh, hello. She puts her stuff away and like stands up to greet you properly and shakes your hand. Rhiannon Ivory. It's, I think, a pleasure to meet you would be an oversimplification, given the fact that we're all here for a mission, but yes.
I'd at least like to start on good terms, no?
Fair enough. In that case, yes, it's nice to meet you.
Justine, any actions from you?
Justine was doing her I can be invisible in plain sight thing while making a cup of tea and getting ready, making sure scarf and sweater and all of that are in the infinite pockets. Spins around, letting her coins be heard. Vadim! Darling! It's been too long. How are
Yes.
you?
Well, I was warm. I'm about to be cold again, but so is life. And how are you? You are looking good as ever.
Oh, thank you, darling. Here, have a cup of chai. I made it myself, the blend of the spices. Ah, I'm ready. It's time. This'll be assignment 25 for me. It's a big deal.
25. A busy sparrow, are you not? Well, it'll be my third foray into all of this, so.
I was there for your first. It was so amazing to watch you work. Please introduce me to your new friend.
Yes, this is, well, I see no reason they cannot introduce themselves. They seem capable.
Hello. My name is Rhiannon. It's nice to meet you. I think this is also my third outing.
Huh.
It's nice that we have someone so experienced on this mission.
Well, as I said on my third, do not follow, for you may not like where I lead. And do not try to lead, for I will never follow. So, I think we are going to have a grand time.
Being headstrong is a
Yes.
valuable tool.
I think a grand time perhaps is contentious, but you always make the best of strange situations, no?
I do.
Are either of you used to, well, for lack of a better term, boreal climate? Snow is an old friend, but
Cold, yes. Snow, not as much. Where I'm from, it is often very grey and rainy and bitterly cold, but it rarely snows.
I sort of eye the firearms that are that you are you're bringing in with you. It might be good to consider the air temperature for your shots. Accuracy at range could differ based on a more higher humidity location. No.
It's definitely something to keep in mind. I tend to prefer more of a mid to short range in general, so it shouldn't be too big of a deal, but that's definitely good to know. I actually have a quick question out of character real quick. Should we describe what our characters physically look like for the good of our viewers?
I think that's a fine idea. I often let it occur naturally, but
Gotcha,
since
okay.
we've given a little bit of detail already, so when one becomes relevant, you can mention it.
Okay, cool. As we're talking about the cold, Rhiannon just sort of like adjusts her her equipment, buttons up the coat, the scarf. She's wearing a like baby blue scarf made of some sort of thick, soft material. And this is particularly noteworthy because it's the only splash of bright color on her entire visage. But she takes a minute to like rewind it and like sort of tighten it around her neck and face, just prepping for the cold.
As she does so, the door to the meeting room opens, and an Enclave attendant, anonymous, impeccably dressed in gray, as always, stands there waiting for the three of you.
I will give you a face.
One more time, Vatim.
I believe that we are being beckoned.
Yes.
People have need of us. I will try to.
That duty calls.
I will try my best to shield you, and I will then look to. And Kat, can you remind me your character's name one more time, please?
Justine.
Justine, thank you. And then Justine, I have given up trying to tell you what to do.
That's a good idea. And as she's following down the hall, putting on her sweater, her scarf, her kufiya, getting all wrapped up, ready to go.
You are led through Enclave HQ, labyrinthine, seemingly infinite, with rooms seeming to bloom out of nothing and soaring towards the ceiling in great cathedral-like arches. The entire place is intricate and beautiful but gray, with the only splashes of color, of which there are many, being agents like yourself who pass you by as you make your way through to the teleportation chamber. Small and dim, with rounded corners and 3 glowing panels on the floor. A disembodied voice says, "Agents, please take your places atop the telepads."
I waved to Siri as I see her in the hall.
I don't think I'll ever get used to that voice.
By the time you hit your 25th, it's like an old friend.
Disembodied voices are always a cause for alarm back home, so they're a little uncanny.
You get them back home?
More often than you'd like, for sure.
Taking the center.
And as you take your places, you feel yourself start to dissociate. Gentle tingling passing from your toes, up your legs, hitting your torso, and by the time it strikes your eyes, your vision explodes into color and nothingness. And then the sensation vanishes as quickly as it came. You are faced with a strange sensation. Bitter cold at your front and warmth at your back. You are inside of a large courtyard, beautiful with gardens and lawns and gentle, small rolling hills, none of which are much bigger than like a large dining room. There are a couple of stands of trees with beautiful white and orange petals, and there are a series of streams passing through it, all stemming from a source lake right at the center of the courtyard. The lake is directly at your backs, and just behind the lake beyond is a gazebo, beautifully designed and colored with intricate wooden patterns inlaid with gold and silver foil. This courtyard stands within a set of heavy and elaborate palace architecture. It looks like it was once rather well fortified, but you can see smoke rising from beyond it, and a fire burning in at least one window. There's an impromptu barricade made between in front of the major, like the main entrance out into this courtyard. And you also can see that in the midst of several of the small windows, as well as pushing their way against the barricade, are dozens upon dozens of small figures. The entire air rings with the sound of destruction and distant burning and yelping, screaming, and also many, many high-pitched whistles. Now, immediate action. Oh, what am I saying? The most important detail. In addition to all of this, amidst the white trees and the green grass, there is red snow on all of the roofs, and much of it falls down into the courtyard, but melts before it strikes the ground. Immediate actions. We are going to start with Rhiannon. What would you like to do?
Can I? You said it melts, but the snow melts before it hits the ground. Does it like stick to like the trees and like other things in the courtyard, or is it like melting as soon as it reaches like rooftop level?
The trees are getting a light dusting towards their top, but even that is melting quite quickly.
Okay. I was gonna see if it would be possible to get just like a little bit of the snow. I just want to taste it and see if it tastes like blood.
Yeah, well, you can absolutely like snatch one of the drops as it melts and then falls down. And
Yeah. Okay.
quickly bring it to your mouth. You have you just posted your stats. Let me double check. You have 2 pluses to sensory. So yeah, your taste is quite good. And as you put it to your mouth, snow already has kind of an iron-ish taste, at least to me. Maybe not to you guys, but at least to me it does. And so initially, it's not very obvious whether it has a bloody taste to it. But after a moment, soft yes. At least
Soft
strongly,
yes?
strong plausibility.
Okay.
After
so
doing so,
probably, but it's not like certain.
Yeah, it's not certain, nor is it like overwhelmingly potent. After doing so, follow-up actions from Rhiannon.
I think there's this second where she just like spits on the ground. Snow. The snow is falling with a sort of taste of blood to it.
And as she says so, immediate actions from Justine, and then from Vatim.
Oh, at least it's not acid. We wouldn't have any clothes by the end of the day. And just taking in the surrounding area, is there anyone who appears to be like in command nearby?
Now, as you take
Waiting on
more
us.
stock of the surrounding area, there are 2 major groups of people that you notice. One is by the barricade out in front of you. There is a pretty decent little contingent of soldiers that look like they have maybe 1 or 2 commanders at their backs. The soldiers number maybe 8 in total, with 2 commanders, so 10. Additionally, behind you at that ornate gazebo, there is another group of 6 soldiers with a group of at least 18 or 19 refugees tucked behind them. These refugees seem, for the most part, to be wearing beautiful aristocratic clothing. Any follow-up actions from Justine?
Gonna start walking towards the commanders.
Yep, absolutely. Justine takes pace forward. Vadim, immediate actions. In response to Rhiannon or Justine or besides?
No response to those actions as yet. However, I will definitely sort of similar vein to Justine, sort of addressing the soldiers, not the commanders, but the sort of the rank and file. How many we got?
Again, at the barrier, you have 8 plus 2 who seem to be in charge, so 10. Back at the gazebo, 6, maybe with a 7th in charge. Again, these 2 are the one group is a little ways behind you, one group's a little ways in front of you. You probably wouldn't be able to get all of them with a single yell, given how loud the general ambiance is here.
And what sort of weapons are they wielding to defend against small little snow creatures?
Yeah. You can see that for the most part, they seem to have the standard equipment of trident. though a number of them also look to have smaller arms at their backs and at their sides, and a few of them too are also wielding, of all things, slings with heavy, like maybe lead pellets that, especially the ones towards the back, have loaded and ready, with their eyes like nervously darting around the shapes that dart between the windows and doors.
Okay. In that case, if with Justine moving to the commanders, I'm gonna move towards the aristocrats, because that's where the remnants of like the royal family and the court are.
Yeah.
So I will sort of take a posture and just march.
This brings you across one of the little rivers that drift away out from the lake at the center. The rivers actually go underneath the architecture of the palace surrounding. The palace is built with bridges as part of its construction to allow the water to flow freely. Now, Rhiannon, after your initial comment, your two companions have started their two different ways. What would you like to do? Either accompany one of them, do your own path, something else.
Yeah. Well, a quick question first. You said there were figures darting about, and the soldiers were like sort of keeping an eye on them. Are they like on the rooftops, or is it sort of beyond the courtyard? There's like motion.
Yeah. So in a lot of different places there's movement of that nature, but with your eyes you can pick out more distinctly. None on the rooftops yet, at least. The palace is multi-storied and has windows looking out onto the courtyard from many different directions. And it seems like in almost 2/3 of those windows, a shape will flit by now and then. But the biggest concentration of them is definitely at the barricade. You hear their angry, shrill whistles as many of them throw themselves at the barricade and are being rebuffed by those who are manning it. They don't seem to have, it's hard to tell because barricade and people in the way, but they don't seem to have any particular tactics, nor do their current strategies seem to be super effective at the moment.
Okay. I will move with Justine towards the group that she's moving towards.
Absolutely.
And for now, just aiming to be like the imposing silent type and let her do the talking.
Well, in that case, as the two of you approach, you can see that one of the two who seem to be overseeing the situation at the barricade does, in fact, look over her shoulder and see you, and immediately turns on her heel and yells out, "Reinforcements, is it?"
Yes, darling, I'm here. We've all arrived.
You see that she frowns slightly and says, "Where's your blade, then?"
It's always with the blades, always. You know, we were told to draw off the Mog Queen, not to kill. So, I am following my orders that I was put under, which was to draw her off. I was not ordered to draw blood today. However, my companions do like to do that, so they might. May I have your name?
She says, "If her ladyship bleeds, that is." She says, "And yes, you may. Una. Guard Lieutenant of the Royal Court."
Lieutenant Una. Pleased. Justine Wael of the Enclave. Rhiannon Ivory. And my companion Vatim is over, I'm sure, going to be speaking to the aristocrats to find out whatever it is that they may have for us information-wise. Is this your most defensible position, darling?
He says, "No, but it is where they are concentrated most at the moment. They are going to start coming out of the windows any second. I know it. I don't even know why they are concentrating here. They are very agile little critters, easily able to get up and down the mountains, even with ice and snow. I don't see why they don't just hop out into the courtyard. But we are taking what defensive stance we have, with plans to retreat back and take a final stand as long as we need to and can."
This river here, is this the only one that converges here in the courtyard, or does it branch? And where does it go? Where does it come from?
And she says, "This," and for a moment seems to pause and calm ever so slightly, and gestures out over the courtyard beyond. She says, "This is the spring, the heart of our realm," and she points to the lake. "From thence, water seeps from the mountains and emits out threefold, and gestures towards one river that from your current position goes right, one that goes left, and another that vanishes under the gazebo. She says, "The snow that her ladyship provides and regularly melts feeds it, and allowed our land to be fertile." She says, "With her blessing, of course, which she has doubtless revoked at this point. She attacked without warning. We have done nothing to provoke her, I will have you know."
Is the snow typically red, and does it typically taste of blood, as my friend Rhiannon says it does?
No and no. Doubtless a sign of her anger.
Well,
Rhiannon, do you have any actions during this conversation or wish to chime in?
yeah, my interpretation would be that the red snow is the warning.
But in that case, it is a terrible warning, one that has been given with less than an hour of notice. We could not have evacuated the city in a day, much less an hour.
Perhaps. How important is the physical building of these courts?
It can be sacrificed, but they will not let us pass. They attack on sight. Normally they can be reasoned with. We have tried our best to.
Do you know where the queen is currently?
Her ladyship, and as she says this, Rhiannon would notice that every time she says the Mog Queen's name, her ladyship, her hand kind of gestures almost in like a subconscious sign of respect. She says, "Her ladyship, we believe, is approaching. The temperature is dropping."
Oh, so the Mog that are currently here were sort of an advance contingent?
Yes, they swarm out like mosquitoes.
Understood.
Justine, any follow-ups?
Are you sure that the blood snow didn't cause this aggression? Might there be stories?
She frowns a second and puts a hand to her forehead as she says, I hadn't thought of that, no, nor have I heard anyone say of it, but such power is unprompted. Plus, her ladyship has complete control of the weather.
Where might I find your histories?
She says, if you can get past the Mog, you will find them in the palace. She points towards your right, towards an entrance to the palace that has currently been propped up with a couple of basic barricades that vanishes into a lower level of it, just next to the river on that side. She says, there. And from there, you'll soon find stairs that take you down deep. Please be careful. There is no other way up besides those stairs, and the Mog will doubtless cut you off.
Any other ways I might get in? Actually, you know what? I have a map. It's okay.
If you insist that this is the best way to do it, good luck.
Might be.
We will find out. I had a question and I lost it.
That's perfectly fine. Let's check in with Vatim, and when you have it back, we'll take it back. Now, Vadim, as you make your way across the small bridge towards the gazebo in the back, you can see that a number of the people who are tucked inside of it, huddling away, look out, a few wave. One of the soldiers, whirling the sling, calls out, "You're our backup, are you?"
Aye, that is true. I wish to speak with your courtiers that are still alive.
"Of course." And he calls over his shoulder, "Here! At least one of them here!" And after a moment, someone pushes through the crowd. You can see that it's a fellow shorter than you, with a long, thin beard that has been braided neatly down to his belly button. His armor seems more ceremonial, and his graying hair has been impeccably manicured. He marches straight up to you with a straight back, and he says, "Hello! You seem like a military sort. I had hoped there would be more at your side."
Though we are few, we possess great strength. Now, tell me, What recent dealings have you had with the Mog?
He says, "Dealings? Well, that's not my department, but I can tell you that there hasn't been anything quite so prominent as to merit anything like this." He gestures around in disgust. He says, "We have been on good terms with them as usual. We have not had any incursions or incidents, none that have been reported, at least for at least a season, maybe more." He says, "Additionally, we have paid our tributes on time as requested without fail." He says, "This is entirely unprompted and I should say unjust, but there's nothing you can do about that."
You say tribute. What sort of tribute is this, and where does it go?
He says, "The tributes are laid at shrines around the snow of the mountains, before they climb too high and get too cold. We always leave her ladyship a variety of offerings, including foreign trade goods, of which she is very fond. We give her books, we give her precious materials when we come across them." He says, I should say, had a primary liaison to her ladyship. He, unfortunately, is no longer with us."
And when were these tributes paid?
He says,
More importantly, do you know when they were collected?
He says, "Last batch would have been a fortnight ago. And yes, my sentries do monitor the tributes, and they were collected on time. Midnight, roundabouts, I believe."
Midnight a fortnight ago, or midnight tonight?
Midnight a fortnight
Or
ago, I
last
would
night.
say.
Can you think of any reason that the Mog would wish hostility upon you?
No.
Suddenly
one.
and for no reason. From your observations, when this attack began, did they go for outlying settlements,
No.
farms that were out of place, or stream straight here?
Only here. We are admittedly the closest point to them. It would take them substantially longer to make their way down into the valleys and the settlements. He says, "This place, the court city, is right in the heart of their realm. They can strike at us from every direction."
Did they? Or was it from one single position?
Every direction. He bitterly snorts, and his mustache flurries a little bit in the wind. He says, after a moment, "It has been difficult to find my wits long enough to even ponder the reason for such an incursion. But I have not come to one, nor have any of the fine minds that remain in our land come to one." He gestures over his shoulder to the nobles and courtiers huddled behind him. As he does so, you hear a crashing, and a couple of the guards look up. You can see out of a small door on side of the palace, it has burst open, and a group of humans has come sprinting out. There's maybe 5 of them, only one of whom is armed. And you can see a number of them have Mog clinging to them, grabbing their legs, biting at their head, and just pulling at their hair. One of them even has an ice-made cudgel and is trying to beat the armored one over the head with it. It's almost a comical sight, were they not so clearly panicked. This is on the opposite side from where Rhiannon and Justine are. As such, Vatim is the first to notice it. Immediately, the man you're speaking to leaps to action, starts barking orders to his soldiers to go and try to protect them and seal the entrance that they emerged from.
As he begins to sort of bark out orders, I'm going to dash in towards the soldiers, and just with a booming call to them, say, "Hearken to me!" And I'm going to hold out a hand and see who looks to me.
This is among the soldiers close to you, or among the people who are
the ones who are
in?
being mogged.
Yep. And as you mogged is a good word for it, actually. Yeah. And as you call out, you can see that 2 of them look to you. One is the single armored one who has 3 Mog clinging to them. And the other one is a smaller individual who is clutching armfuls upon armfuls of ledgers.
Ledgers. Cool. I will, like, as I look at them, I will quickly rub my hands together very fast, sort of like creating that friction, that heat, and create a warm breath. As I do, I would like to use 2 arms, which is one of my abilities as a Thane. I would like to Yeah, I would like to give some sort, which allows me to sort of like, give weapons and armaments. I would like to give a heavy winter cloak over them, and as I do, I would like it to sort of like a hand warmer or something like sort of push out some warmth. I want to test if these Mog are hindered by heat.
Okay, so you're trying to
Ooh,
give
good
this like
call.
just enough magic in order to make it
Yeah,
produce
just
heat.
enough.
Okay, I'm going to say that it's not magic, but in the conjuring process, kind of like getting clothes fresh out of the dryer, it will be warm for a short time after being conjured. Is that acceptable?
Yay!
Nice.
And as I do that, I will draw my blade and move to intercept and start hacking tiny creatures off of these guys.
Absolutely. Now, as
the ledger guy is my primary concern.
Yep. As you do so, are you trying to get coats on just the two who look to you? I'm guessing so.
I'll
yeah.
try to get all, but like to arms, normal it needs a little bit of
It needs
connection,
back and forth,
and
yeah. And
the
because
other
of that-
three were too busy going. Ah!
Yeah, and you're doing it very fast too. If you had done a longer one, then maybe. But because of this, you're in a tight spot, and because of that, the giant coats bloom up into existence on the two of them. The soldier who has like three on him, the Mog are actually pushed off as the coat appears, just because the coat occupies space they were previously occupying. One of them still clings onto the arm, but you can see that the Mog don't seem to be, at least from initial glance, harmed by the heat. If anything, they seem to just be kind of uncomfortable with it. Like, or maybe they have trouble touching it. For whatever reason, they don't seem to be able to find purchase and can't cling like they can on the others. Now, as you do so, the soldier, who had been, again, mobbed by the most of them, whips around and uses her trident to like knock one of the ones off of one of the uncoated individuals before rushing back to quickly close the door, which already has more Mog coming in. Vadim is rushing in. He has a plus to vigor, I believe, which should
plus.
Yeah, which should mean he'll get there quickly. Jumping back over to Justine and Rhiannon, the two of you had been making your way across the courtyard to the entrance you had been indicated to, and you're most of the way there when you hear on the opposite side of the courtyard that door burst open and soldiers jumping into action with Vadim at their head rushing over to help the 5 people who have entered. Are you going to continue what you're doing, or do you want to change actions based on that?
I think Rhiannon will change actions based on that, just to assist.
Yeah.
How far away is it? Like, how big is the
It's a
courtyard?
decent distance. The courtyard is large. Think of it like 2 soccer fields next to each other.
Okay, so here's a thought.
Yeah.
And I don't know how well it works triangularly, with the exact spacing of things, but with a trick shot, in my head, I am banking a shot off of Vadim's blade into the one with the cudgel.
Yeah.
Like, attempting to shatter the cudgel with a trick shot.
Yeah.
Can I do that?
Oof, that's so interesting. What's your paired action going to be? And in this case, make it a good one, because that's a very precise shot.
I think so. What happens? She had already put her knife away back before we teleported. So as she turns around, she like takes off running, and when she feels like she's in range, like flips the coat open, pulls out the gun in this like smooth motion, and sort of like steadying it on her other hand, fires towards Vadim and attempts to bank it off of the sword.
Now, Trickshot loves flourish. In the paired action, it calls explicitly for a flourish of the weapon. So
This is true.
can you add a flourish to that action? Like something unnecessarily stylish.
Right. Okay.
Do you need a moment to consider
Okay.
further?
So, yes, because I do want to do this, but I hadn't properly considered the flourish.
That's perfectly fine. Here, let's jump over to Justine briefly. You see that Rhiannon has turned to deal with this new threat. Will Justine continue into the entrance indicated?
Before saying yes, are there any benches,
Yes.
columns, anything I can
Also yes.
duck? Yeah, I want to duck somewhere real quick, open up
Yep.
my map, and look to see if it gives me any alternate routes in or secret passages that maybe that guard doesn't know about.
Absolutely. So opening up your map, you have a pretty good layout of the palace. Of note, something you immediately notice on opening the map, This palace does not have sleeping quarters. This is more like a government center than like a house for royalty. And as such, it has a rather practical layout. Now, give me an idea here of it's like and the archive is one of the lowest like floors to it, like a second basement level. What sort of alternative entrances besides the main stair might you be looking for? Let's begin with that.
Even a basement window.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that.
Yeah, that's exactly what she's looking for, is a well hidden basement window, like something that's maybe got some bushes to either side of it, or like a nice big rhododendron bush in front of it.
I got something for you. In that case, the word well is very appropriate here, because remember how I described the rivers actually going through the palace? Well, there's a window that faces the river side.
Ooh. Let's get wet again. Justine likes getting in the water, I guess.
Now, this will be her second time dealing with frickin' freezing high mountain spring water, but this one is even colder than the last one.
Yep, let's do it.
Gooseflesh immediately starts racing up here. Like,
I have my towel, so I'm good.
This is like the sort of thing where like one toe goes in, the eyes got the mouth like, but you can finish sinking your way in. Yeah, your teeth are chattering.
Start cursing in Arabic. Going back to the native language.
As you're scooting along the river, freezing cold, your hands have trouble gripping the edge of it, which is tiled rather than made of grass or like natural sod. You can make your way through. The window is partially submerged in the water. What do you want to do with it? And I should note, it's a window that's longer than it is tall, and you could say like roughly 4 foot wide, 2 foot tall sort of dimensions.
All right, she could fit. She's not a very large person. Yeah, I'm gonna break that window if I can.
Sure. What with?
Well, I always have my walking stick, because that's my only weapon.
Going for that?
So I'm gonna brace myself and pow, pow, pow.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you for noting your stat ups. By the way, that was extremely helpful.
Yes.
The first
nice to have a +2 in might.
Yeah. The +2 in might was the really big one here. In that case, it's reinforced glass. This is not easy to break through unless you have double plus might, in which case, smashing through the window, water starts to pour into the room as well. But you have an entry point.
So yeah, I drop in, and
as you slink in with like a little like waterfall of freezing spring water pouring on your head now, you can quickly step out of that and into the archive room. It's quite a beautiful room. A lot like I don't know if you picked this up already, but the architecture and the overall aesthetic of this region is very much emphasizing beauty over form, like a form over function, right? And as such, it's a beautiful archive, rather spacious. It has a couple of other like window well type dealios that allow some natural light to come in, although all the ones on your left at this point are completely obstructed by red snow that has piled up outside of them. However, the interior is kind of a stepped sort of situation, almost like a very shallow amphitheater that was kind of irregularly elevated. And each one has like little scroll racks and like archival tablets laid out, and some beautiful art along the walls. Where would Justine like to start here?
Is there any apparent I almost want to say like a card catalog or organization system?
Excellent question.
I mean, if it's a government building, I'm thinking of the law libraries that I used to hang out in, and they have a card system.
Yeah. Where would you be looking for one? Are you just going to like start marching around trying to find one, or are you taking your time and looking for like very specific places? Like, what are you going for?
I think I'll start looking in the places that I would expect a card catalog, which would be towards official entrances, not ones that I made.
Indeed. And so making your way up through the room, something quickly becomes obvious to you that while it doesn't like immediately become obvious that there's like a catalog system, something that a lot of libraries do also have is attendance. And there is one here who you spot cowering under a desk towards the entrance of the room with a mog rooting around on top of the desk inside of the little dish of sweets that's there.
It likes sweet.
That's adorable.
I'm gonna pull a brownie out of my pocket.
And as you do so, the Mog hears you and turns around towards you. It's a funny-looking little creature. Let me see if I can describe this like concisely. So, it looks somewhere between a dandelion puff, an insect, and an Ewok. Right? That's like the best way I will describe it. Incredibly fluffy and round, with big, kind of compoundish looking eyes. Not perfectly compound, but not like pupilled like you'd expect. With big floppy feet that are kind of segmented, and little graspy hands that barely stick out of the fluff ball. The thing is kind of a bluish white in color, with its eyes being, in this case, a kind of hazy red-orange.
Oh, aren't you so cute? Sweets?
You can see that it hops along the table with like a almost skipping step. Quick little thing. Leaps to the ground and does a little roll on the ground before looking up towards your hand. Its little graspers kind of flex their fingers.
Is it doing gimme fingers?
Yeah, it is.
I give it.
Snatches. And you can see that the brownie vanishes into the fluff.
Friend?
It looks back up towards you. You can see its eyes. It's hard to tell. They're like opaque mirrors. They just kind of look at you, clearly focusing. It gives another... I'm not going to do a loud whistle because I want to blow your ears out.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And as it does so, you can see that its little graspy hand reaches towards your shirt of coins. And it gives a little of indignity and reaches out again.
More sweets?
It doesn't seem to register the word as much since it's clearly trying to pull coins off of your shirt.
It likes the shinies. So Justine seeing this and obviously not wanting to be disrobed by a 2-year-old snowman goblin thingy that doesn't understand. No. She's going to kind of try to mesmerize it.
How so?
By doing some belly dance moves. So getting the coins to move with just slight little shoulder shimmies and then hip shimmies and then back up to shoulder, and it's a backing away shimmy and then a forward, just real gentle, small, not big movements, but the coins will jangle and the light that is available will catch. And also the person cowering will hear that there's another human in the room.
Indeed. You see that the Mog's eyes race along the reflected light of the coins. It looks and kind of toddles forward a little bit more as it just looks and looks, no longer trying to grab, just fascinated by the movement and the shining. You hear a scrabbling noise as the person climbs out from under their desk. You can see that she is hyperventilating slightly, with her hair completely disheveled and stains of red snow all over her clothing. And she's just kind of trying to catch your eye from around like one of the bookshelves that is next to her desk without letting the Mog see her, though it's no risk of that at the moment. What do you want to do?
I make eye contact, give her a smile, and just kind of with fancy hands give her the calm down hands, but they look like I'm just being a bird.
Yeah. You can see that the Mog continues to kind of trundle forward, still staring and looking. You're leaving it far enough away from the desk that you're going to have to take a few steps down because of the elevated construction of this room layout. The attendant very gingerly follows you, kind of darting from one bookshelf to another, trying to stay out of sight as much as possible.
Hey, my research is gonna get put on hold because I'm dancing for Mog.
Before we go further, Rhiannon, let's hear about that flourish.
Right. So when stuff starts going down, she has to do that quick turn around, and as she does, at the same time, she's like pulling open her jacket with such force that it snaps the leather, like in the sense of snapping a whip, not like in the sense that it breaks.
I know what you mean.
She snaps it, and it almost sounds like thunder.
Yeah.
And as she pulls out the gun, she does the like almost requisite like spin, realizes she hasn't loaded it, and like snaps it up with one hand as she like jams a bullet in it with the other, flips it closed, and like one hand is almost up holding the hat so it doesn't like fall off.
Yeah.
As she tilts her head up and takes aim at the blade of Vadim's sword, attempting
Absolutely.
to bank a shot off of it and shatter the ice cudgel.
And as Vadim charges, he hears a distant shot and a sharp ping off his blade, which briefly rattles in his fingers. As he does so, there is a shattering noise the moment thereafter, and the nearest Mog to him, the one that had the cudgel, suddenly no longer has a cudgel and swings once or twice with an empty hand. You can see that it has a kind of a cartoonish moment of like, where is the thing in my hand gone? Before the person who had it on top of their head kind of flings it off onto the ground. At this point, however, Vadim is close enough to act before we jump back over to Rhiannon. Now, Vadim, as you are drawing close enough to be combat relevant to this scene, you have both humans and Mog, which makes it complicated, especially because the Mog are small. The humans, in this case, you have one. The closest to you is kind of on your left. Then you have another one a little straight ahead, and another one just past them. The one closest to you is within a full sword swing distance. The other two are just beyond that range. And among these three, there are no less than 7 Mog, 5 of which are on the ground, and 2 of which are on the closest person.
All right. So what I'd like to do is, as I get near that closest person, or as I'm coming in towards them, I'm going to turn the blade so that the blunt edge, the blunt edge is sort of facing in towards them, and instead of going for like a slash or a strike, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring it low, because if they're harrying them like across their back or across their side, I'm gonna bring it low and sort of cantilever the blade up and try and just like swing it up their side with the blunt edge, not so as not to cut them, and just try and get like 3 if I can.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you come in, strike, and then swing up, you can see that the one that was on their back is flung wildly off of it. You did land a cut on this one, and you can see that where you cut, the pieces of it that fly off immediately turn to crystal clear snow. It falls onto its back and rolls backwards to get back onto its feet. However, now you have 3 more leaping at you. These ones are now coming from the ground, and again, they're quick. They dart in and out and are trying to get as close as possible to climb onto you. What do you want to do?
I would rather them climb on me than anything else.
Yeah.
So as you know, because like I am the hired help. So I will start. I'll let them climb on me.
Yeah.
Because that means they're not on the others, and and as they start to sort of focus me, just go, get to your friends, and sort of like direct them back towards the group.
Yeah.
I want to. Yeah, right now I'm focusing on the ones that are attacking the people who are coming in. I can take it. I can take it.
Remind me the layout of your armor again.
Yeah, so very much, it's roughly it's a pretty, it's kind of makeshift heavy armor in that it is pretty well covered, but it is a lot of like welded pieces of like destroyed steam engine and like outer layer of tank that is like like flashed on, like in like lamellar style, except with the plates are all slightly different sizes, except for like one piece, which is the chest piece, which is this sort of like light cavalry cuirass. And there is plates along the legs with some breaks at the knees for mobility.
Absolutely. As you feel them clambering up you, first of all, they're incredibly lightweight, like less than 20 pounds each. And as they go up, you hear them like whistling to each other quickly. They also climb very fast. Their graspers, while small, are very, very tough and hard, or not toughy, but have very good grip strength. And because of that, you feel them like grab onto any bit that they can to get up and also to get in, tucking themselves such that it's hard for you to like lever your blade around to bear to actually strike at them. At this point, you have 3 on you, and you're quickly making your way over to the other 2 assailed humans who have the 2 coats that you summoned in. They're just a little ways past the 3 that you initially encountered, and they have a sum total of 4 Mog around them. They are at this point back to back. The one with the armful of scrolls is just kind of like trying, or not scrolls rather, but ledgers, is just trying to not get hurt and keeping the coat up as high as possible, while the soldier has once again 2 more Mog on her and is valiantly trying to fight them off with her trident, but they're just too good at getting in and under it.
All right. What I like to do is so there's some who are climbing. There's a few who are climbing on me. Are any like in my armor yet, like properly?
None have gotten in yet. They are still trying to work out what a plate is.
This is fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my revolver in my offhand, in my left hand, and I'm going to. Are they all conglomerated near one side
of you,
or are they just on me? The ones that are on me.
1 on your back, 1 on your left thigh, 1 on your left shin.
Okay,
while you're real quick,
will...
while you're considering, I want to catch Rhiannon up real quick. Now, after your initial bank shot, you see the success of the cudgel smashing. Immediate follow-up. So, what do you want to do?
Yeah, so Rhiannon takes off running, and as she's clearing the courtyard, just loading the gun to make sure it's got its full 6.
Yep.
And as she gets over there, switches to the knife, just to reduce the risk of hitting civilians.
Yeah.
And start just trying to assist the. You said there was a soldier with 2 of them on her.
Yeah.
So with the knife, attempting to sort of interpose between, so like bending down with it and like extending her arm to have the knife be in front of one of the 2 that's harrying her, and just trying to draw its attention in order to fight it directly and like not have to worry about hitting the soldier.
Absolutely. Now that I know where you're heading towards, let's get Vadim a little bit more, because it will take Rhiannon a little bit of time to get all the way over there. And so, Vadim, actions from you from here.
Yeah, I would like to aim down with my revolver at one of the ones who's still on this ledger guy.
Yep.
And this will definitely be like an aim focus to get the tracking shot.
Yep.
Since they're fast.
The ledger guy is also not moving. He has his arm over his head and is just kind of tucked into the back of the soldier, trying not to get his face gouged.
Yep. Yeah, in that case, I will definitely. Perfect. That makes it easier not to shoot them.
Yep. The revolver cracks, and you can see that the one that was on like the top of his head, trying to get down at him, is flung off of him bodily and poofs away into snow. You can see that unlike
Clear
the snow
snow,
falling
not
from the
red
sky,
snow.
it is not red. Yeah, you preempted my statement. Yeah.
The plot thickens.
After doing so, you can see that the soldier is once again in trouble. She has had, one of them has gotten past her trident and is starting to climb up her front. You notice that the guards of this place, they're royal guards, yes. They do not wear heavy armor of any kind. Their armor seems to be largely ceremonial, given that they don't seem to be used to being attacked in any way, shape, or form. and because of that, the Mog has a clean shot as it gets up to her belly and starts to rip and tear with its graspers.
Ouch. How close? I'm getting closer to this.
You're very close at this point. You were close enough to take not a point blank shot, but like a 3 paces shot at the one on that first guy.
So I just fired one. So in that case, what I'm going to do is take one step forward as I do lunging and sort of doing a down and sort of upward swing. To get this one, just cleave it off the tongue.
And as you do so, your sword comes up, it strikes it. It also clacks her trident and pretty much knocks it completely out of her hands.
That's fine.
And as you do so, that Mog poofs away into snow. And the trident, she wasn't gripping the trident very hard because both hands are now at her stomach. The Mog's hands were, which you can see now, are not clawed. It's more like they have like a big spade at the end of every finger, like a big human fingernail, which was definitely more than enough to give a nasty gash to her midriff. That being said, the other one that was
Luckily,
dealing with...
it's cold, so blood flow will slow down.
That being said, remember in the courtyard, it's actually quite warm. It's like when you're facing out, it's cold, but inside it's warm. That being said, the other two that were in this area, one dealing with attacking the one with the ledgers, the other attacking this guard, have both also turned to you and are climbing up you. Rhiannon, as you are now close enough to interact, you see that Vatim has taken all of the aggro and now has 5 Mogs swarming over him. One is up on his head, 2 are on his midriff, 1 is down on his shins, and another one has worked his way to his left arm and is trying to stop him from swinging his sword properly.
Okay. I will attempt to deal with the one that's on his arm.
How do you want to do so?
So am I close enough to like interact with the knife?
Yeah.
Okay, so with one hand just attempting to like grab it and pull it back, and with the other just going at it with the from the side with the Bowie knife.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just again trying to minimize the risk of, hitting people that don't deserve to be hit.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever had to like grab a rodent that really didn't want to be grabbed before, but much like in that case, the second you grab, it turns its whole body around and tries to like clamp down on your hand to punish you for going for it. But your knife gets to it pretty quickly, and it puffs away into smooth snow and starts to melt off of your hands. Immediate follow-ups after doing that.
Just keep prioritizing things that are impeding his movement, since he's such a melee heavy fighter. Just attempting to, reduce that stress on his physical movement.
In that case, probably leg would come next. Are you doing a similar strategy of grabbing in first and pulling off?
Yeah. Well, if I can, I think I think I just attempt to like soccer kick it first, just to avoid having to bend over. And then if it's still coming at her, then she'll like go down with the knife and like up.
Oh no, the punt is a brilliant idea. And actually, since these things are so lightweight, it sends this thing like streaking out and plasters it against the wall that of the palace facing the courtyard.
Fantastic.
Vatim, follow-up. Oh, question. Vatim, do you have a helmet?
Yeah, so yes, there's sort of like a very much like a French cuirassier's style helmet, except just with a big heavy woolen cap sort of
absolutely. I remember the
over
cap.
top instead of so it helmet down to like here, and then like the there's not mail but like heavy padding and like scarf.
Yeah, that's what I remembered. So immediate actions now that you're swarming with Mog.
All right, now that I'm swarming with Mog, and I've noticed that Rhiannon is near me, correct?
No, you have not yet, because she is coming up from behind you and on your left. So this is catching right up to the point where she pulls one off of you.
Cool. So seeing the pulling off of me, what I'd like to do is seeing that I'm surrounded by these Mog, I'd like to try something. I don't know if it'll work. So what I'd like to do is, so armor lock from Halo, right?
Yeah, I know it.
What I'd like to do is I would like to breathe in the cold air, sort of like fill it in, and as I do, focusing shield wall And instead
Yeah.
of creating a line of interlocked shields, I would like to effectively create a frozen layer around myself
Yeah.
and trying and sort of sandwiching the Mog inside it. Or not, not so that they are stuck.
Okay. Let me think about
With
this for a second. Yeah.
with my sort of minor connection to like nature magic, folk magic, can I sort of assist with that? Just picking up on like his attempts to manipulate the cold. Can I sort of
You would see him take the deep breath despite being swarmed by enemies, and you would see him. I don't know if would Vadim be closing his eyes, or it sounds.
Vadim's eyes are closed, and all he is thinking about is like, he is pausing and just like, all right, this might suck. This might hurt, but you know what? I have an ally who's better at dealing with fast little things. I am big guy. So and he just thinks he thinks about sort of like he thinks about the hull of a ship.
Yeah.
Like the hull of like a coastal schooner or something. Like this just solid wall holding and brings his arms up with that deep cold, sort of bringing, trying to bring the cold that the Mog is bringing in with them into himself, and just sort of holds it and trying to summon the shield wall just as a layer around himself, freezing them in place for just a moment so that they can just get like whack-a-mole.
In that case, Rhiannon, you would see this plus the air in front of him starting to distort slightly. What would you like to try?
So in that second, Rhiannon thinks back to stories from her childhood, from her people of the mountains, and the way that they act as a barrier, the way that they act as a sort of sentry against forces beyond. And she allows that energy that memory to enter, something that is not necessarily bidden frequently. She's not prone to nostalgia on the regular, but in this moment, she needs that connection. She needs the connection to mountain magic, to that natural force of ice and stone, and attempts to sort of almost wordlessly sort of convey it forward.
How will she? Well, the convey it is the interesting part. How do you want to convey it to Vadim? Will you be touching him? Will you be talking to him? What do you want to do?
So I just like punted the one off of his legs, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think in that moment, right hand has the knife. So left hand, just on his, like between his shoulder blades.
Yeah.
On his back, and not in Metro, in sort of the language that she's familiar with. Just says a super quick, soft, prayer to the mountain, essentially.
Yeah. Give me like a brief summary. You don't have to do the exact wording. Brief summary.
It's entreating the spirits of the mountain for protection, and sort of calls upon the nature of a mountain. So it's conveying the idea of being immovable, and attempting to sort of I'm trying to it's hard to phrase.
I get what you're going for. I'm not going to pry much further than that, but I'm going to say two things. One, I see what you're going for there, and I quite like it. And so because of that, Rhiannon would feel two things. First of all, she would see what's happening clearer than Vadim, as Vadim is locked in focus. She would see that a phantasmal shield manifests in midair at Vadim's front, pinning the two Mog that are on his midriff against him. You hear little protesting whistles from them. There is still one on his head, which is trying desperately to get his helmet off. That's not having much luck with that. But two things to note. First of all, Rhiannon would see that Vadim conjured a wooden shield, though it is in a distinctly not wooden style. It looks more like the prow, or what do you call it, the cow catcher of a locomotive, much more appropriate to where Vadim is from, but made of wood. And second of all, she would notice, as this happens, the grass around his feet flurries with roots that move through it like waves in water before vanishing again. Now, Vadim, you feel the shield wall activate. You don't yet know any of these things I've just described to Rhiannon. You still feel the annoying one on your head, but you also feel the two that are now contained by this like grasping shield.
Yep. And are they? I'm not. So one of the benefits of Shield Wall is that my allies can move through it.
Indeed.
Oh, cool.
So I'm just going to say, please stab them.
Yeah, as requested, Rhiannon will just go to town on the ones that are trapped at least.
Absolutely. This is easily done, but Rhiannon would also see that the one that's on his head has given up with trying to remove the helmet and is now working its fingers down to the eye holes.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, going at the two on his chest, and then if I have, like, the for lack of a better way to put it, the action economy, will attempt... You said he's, like, 5'2", right?
Yeah.
Five.
Okay, so not
I'm
quite
sorry. I did write that down. I don't know why. Anyway, so he's about the same height as Rhiannon, so she just, like, with her left hand, it's not holding a weapon, but with her left hand, just attempts to, like, swipe it off the top of his head.
Yep.
And if it latches onto her arm, that's fine. She's just trying to get it off of him.
Yep.
And yeah.
Now, in this case, the swipe-off head works perfectly fine. It lands on the ground not far away. Vadim, follow-up actions after the two on your chest have been dispatched.
How many more are there?
There's only the
has
one
been
left that has been knocked off of you.
Okay, so I will feeling the two that are in my chest that I had successfully trapped, I'm going to sort of forcefully break through the shield wall, sort of ending it abruptly. And
this is the moment, by the way, at which you notice that it was made of wood as it breaks, and it cracks with a sound of wood.
There will be a moment of astonishment as, wait, what? Normally this is ethereal light. Crap! What did I do? What I want to do is I just want to, like, leap for this thing and headbutt it down. Because I will impart more force to it than is relevant to my head.
It's mashed into the
Fantastic.
ground and poofs to snow. Before we go further, let's jump back to Justine, also contending with Mog in a very different way. Mog and How to Use Them, a new book.
Yes.
We all play to our strengths.
Now, as you gently dance your way backwards into the archive from whence you came, with the Mog following you, what would you like to do?
Justine's going to start softly singing, and in the song, she's going to be peppering questions to the person that she's hoping is following.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Are they yes or no questions? Actually, give me some examples of some of these questions.
What do the little mugs take? I heard something about a sacrifice. Payment? Is it a payment? Is it a bribe? What do these little mugs take?
And you can see that the
Listen to that on
archivist
Spotify.
is... I'd play that on repeat. And you can see that the archivist considers wildly for a second, accidentally knocks a book off, but the Mog is too intrigued by what's going on to be disturbed, and then quickly grabs a slate from nearby and scribbles out an answer, tribute, and then scrapes this out on the slate and writes out underneath it, in EX, as in presumably exchange, for weather.
What do they like to have for tributes? Is it food? Is it gold? Is it gratitude saying thank you?
She puts a 3 times underlined no to that last one, but and then for the other two it says both, and then adds underneath plus curios.
They like the shinies, and so do I. We're gonna jingle, jingle, and we're gonna go bye-bye. Let's go, my little friend. And she just kind of focuses a little bit on the Mog real quick and does like a little clapping to see if it'll clap along with her, doing a little rhythm like...
The Mog looks at the clapping hand and then tries to reach the clapping hand.
Hey, little baby. And as it reaches, I take my hands on the outside and try to make it clap with me.
And you see that it does like a one-handed clap as it tries to grab your hands more.
Good job. You're so sweet, little friend. Can you do this? And she starts doing like little snake hands.
Its little head moves as it tries. Well, its whole body moves as it tries to follow your hands. At this point, by the way, you're backing
My
up far
dog
enough
thinks
that,
I'm singing to her.
you are backing up far enough that you're soon going to be stepping into the water that continues to flood into the archive from your point of entry.
Awesome. Can I step over it without
you can-
stepping through?
You can
And
step
see
over it for the time being onto like a chair that is close to where you'd be stepping off from.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, screw it. I'm just gonna kind of walk in the water and see if it follows me and what that does to it. And while doing that, a last little question sing-songy for my archivist friend. Was there something different about the last tribute? Something that may have been not up to par?
And a fervent... the Mog, by the way, tumbles into the water, ploosh, gets back up and keeps trying to go for you. Its fluff has been completely flattened, like a Dr. Seuss character. It's now just kind of like a little stick made of like
So
wet.
cute.
wet
I am
fluff.
taking this home with me.
It's so deeply
Unfortunately,
unfortunate that we just killed 7 in the courtyard when you weren't looking.
unfortunately, however, the Mog is getting smaller as it's melting in the water.
Aww.
Yes.
My poor little friend. Chickle, chickle, chickle. My poor little friend. I'll see you again.
And it vanishes in the water. And the archivist says, "Thank you so much for saving me."
You're welcome, darling. Now I really do need to know, has anything like this ever happened in your mythologies or
never.
histories?
Never,
There's
never,
not even
never.
a mythology about it.
No, nothing to do with this whatsoever. I checked. That's the first thing I did. That's why I went here when the snow started falling with the red. You saw the red snow.
I saw the red.
Yes, I
Yes.
checked. Nothing whatsoever. Yes, the queen has had her moods in the past. Yes, she has been very upset about things in the past, but never like this.
How would one go about trying to entreat with the queen?
Normally, it's very easy. We have liaisons. Well, we have one main liaison, but I've actually spoken with her very, very briefly once or twice, and she's perfectly, well, maybe not happy to answer questions, but she is willing to answer questions.
The liaison or the queen?
The queen.
The queen, okay. And the
From what I was
liaison-
told, she's in a rage. The liaison was killed in cold blood.
That is correct. I do believe we got that on our briefing. Okay. Where else can you feasibly hide? I don't want you to be injured. Keepers of knowledge are so important.
I don't know. Well, there's only one way, well, two ways out. She points to the broken window, which is still has
Welcome.
water pouring in. She says, "I don't really fancy my chances getting into that." And she says, "Perhaps just," and looks around wildly around the archive, as though hoping that a door will magically appear, which it of course doesn't. But she doesn't have an immediate response for you. She says,
No.
maybe I can be of some more assistance. The queen has attacked before. This is
Yes.
not the first time she has attacked, but she's in the past she's been willing to broker peace quite quickly, and it's usually very clear why she's angry, and she makes it clear why she is angry. And the last time, that was in my lifetime. It was only 24 years ago, maybe. Yes, I would have been apprenticing at the time, and yes, it was all anyone could talk about for a year at the very least. It was because there was a promise made to her that she would be able to marry into the family at long last, our royal family, and that was accepted, and she was happy, or at least we thought she was happy, at best we can tell. She, didn't stay here very often, maybe a day every year or so.
And did this marriage not happen?
No, it did. It did. Prince's father was unwilling at the time because, well, you know, I mean, it's well, she's not
Bigotry?
a Mog, but I wouldn't say bigotry, but you haven't seen her yet. I'd presume she's not exactly the most welcoming type.
No. I mean, beauty's in the eye of the beer holder, so I've heard.
I said nothing to do with beauty. She is beautiful. There's no doubt about that. But just, I don't think it was the happiest marriage.
No. And her betrothed, her spouse, are they
Killed.
When?
He went out as soon as the invasion began and begged her to see sense. I wasn't there, but I had it on good record that he was killed on the spot.
Do they have any offspring?
Yes, they had a daughter. She is studying abroad, I believe.
Has the daughter ever visited?
Yes.
Returned home, as it were?
She was here, not terribly long ago, I think. A month or so. Well, I mean, I don't think it has anything to do with her. She doesn't have her mother's disposition necessarily. A strange girl, but not as strange as you might expect.
Wondering. Maybe it's a contentious relationship she had with her parents.
Oh, that's no doubt. She and her mother did not get along.
Huh. Do we know what this daughter is studying?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, she's very magically gifted, so she's at a magic college.
Huh.
Inducted at age of 7. You see that she actually stands up a little proudly and says, the youngest there, twofold.
Wow. That is an achievement.
And now she would be 10, 11, I think. And has already exceeded the abilities of almost every gifted magic user in the land. But then she deflates herself again. She says, she's not a nice girl, but she's a good girl. And I've known her quite a while. She loves it here. Gesturing around the archive.
Do you think, possibly, this red snow could be a temper tantrum of a child?
She's not the kind to do that. She shakes her head. She's a very serious young woman. And, well, her mother does not seem the type to throw a tantrum either. If anything, it's her father who would do such a thing. Good man, bit of a temper.
I've really got a feeling that this red snow was the catalyst for the attack.
But, I mean,
I'm
possible.
just very curious. How?
Well,
and-
I mean,
Anything in your histories or mythologies?
it's well known that only the queen can control the weather. Now,
So
her
I've
daughter
heard.
perhaps can. If so, it has not been publicly revealed. It's a very important power. One of the most important things in all of Guirehive, for all I know. She says, it's so penultimately important that we are effectively beholden to give her any tribute she requests. And she has requested very reasonable tributes.
The last, the curios that were taken last
Oh, all
as
sorts.
tribute.
Foreign trade goods of all kinds. There's a list somewhere, but it would be somewhere else in the palace that is undoubtedly being overrun by Mog.
Well, I just cannot help but to feel that someone is making it snow blood. As well, you don't see them with me, but I do have companions.
Good.
One of them did taste it and said it
Okay.
was very irony, very, very blood-like in the taste. So that just, if I were a queen and, I mean, beyond what I am, one that could control the weather and was so intrinsically tied
Your queen?
Seems that.
I'm terribly sorry, my ladyship. I have been very rude to you.
Oh, it's quite all right. I'm traveling incognito, as it were, today.
I understand, Majesty. Well, 1,000 pardons, and I will do my absolute utmost to assist you. But before she can finish the phrase "your task," you hear a shrill whistling from outside, and the door of the archive starts to get battered on.
Oh, I do believe that is our cue. Either we will be going through them. Oh, no, no, I have a grand idea. This room is flooding. There is no drainage here. That was an oversight by your engineers. We will guide them into a river. They will be baptized, unfortunately, and returned to their queen. Then maybe we can speak as monarchs.
And as she says this, she hops onto the chair that you hopped onto, and then from there onto a desk. The water level at this point, from the lowest point of the room, is at least 4 feet. And the door is battered down as a group of Mog come rushing in. These ones actually have weapons. You see that 2 of them are wielding long icicle daggers, and another 2 have big icicle clubs, and another 2 are wielding bits of bedpost that they clearly tore off of some unfortunate piece of furniture.
Yes, I love it.
Now,
The greatest weapon of all time.
they immediately see you, and you can see that, first of all, they stare at your coins, no doubt.
Uh-huh.
And
shiny.
then one of them with the bedpost takes the bedpost and with, again, surprising strength, snaps it in half and kind of like hesitantly starts to rear back to throw a piece of it at you guys.
I shimmy at him. Get those coins going.
He seems to think better of it after that moment, and they start to tromp down the stairs towards you, all peering over at the coins. The archivist says, "Do you have any ideas for what happens when they start throwing things?"
Hopefully I can convince them not to, as they wade through this water and go by the way of the other one.
You see that as they do so, they're interested in the coins, but they're definitely not quite as entranced as that first one. You haven't given them the full business, and because of that, one of them prods the water with his icicle. I say his; they don't have sex. And immediately jumps back as the icicle tip has already started to melt. You see that the library attendant has like hesitantly looked around at some of the objects around her and says, "Maybe I could throw something back."
They like sweets as well. I mean,
Does
we
an ink
discovered
bottle
that.
count?
Is the ink sweet?
Maybe. She dips a finger in, and as she does so, she says, "What am I doing?" and then tosses it into the water.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Stress does crazy things to a person.
Sure does. And the chair she got up on, is that close to where I made a new door?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Darling, if you'd like, I can give you a boost, get you out of here.
Well, I would never dream of standing upon your ladyship, and additionally, even if so, I don't really fancy my chances of getting grip on that shattered window.
Oh, I did do a number on that. Apologies.
Well,
Sometimes I forget to think.
I'd prefer that to having my eyes ripped out.
Well, I think we can wait them out. The water will continue to rise and eventually start flooding out the door. So they'll have no choice but to retreat. We will have the flood on our side. Or as people from my part of Manifold like to say, the inundation always comes.
And after a moment she says, "Yes, very good. Unfortunately, inundating about 1,000 years of history in the process."
Hopefully, you have backups. I don't know what else to say. There
She
were
gives
great
a smile.
libraries where I'm from that were burned to the ground.
And speaking,
Never forget.
and as you, I heard that. Still salty. Same.
Still salty.
Before we go further, though, let's jump back out to Rhiannon and Vatim. Actions from the two of you, now that the Mog have been cleared out and the two individuals that Vatim coated are at last safe and sound. The guard is, again, now at this point, properly rushing over to the entrance and slamming it shut as other soldiers are coming in, having safely escorted the three who Vatim initially saved and are now moving past to secure this door as well. There are precious few soldiers who have been deployed over here, given that the situation in the courtyard is tenuous at best and they are undermanned. Rhiannon and Vatim, actions. We'll begin arbitrarily with Vatim.
I'll sort of look at myself for a second, and then look at Rhiannon. Did you do something? I normally don't make wood.
Yes. Where I'm picking up your accent. Where I'm from, the magic of nature is very important, and I try to rely on the spirit of the mountain to help bolster your strength. And apparently it turned your shield to wood.
Well, that means that whatever spirit of the mountain that you are calling upon believes that wood is at least minorly antithetical. Secondly, these beings, when they die, do not turn into the red snow that is being produced.
Did I notice that they were having difficulty touching the two that were like supernaturally warmed?
You did not notice that, but you did notice that they were not climbing on them where they had a coat. The guard who was harmed was attacked when one got onto her stomach.
Okay. Sorry, I got distracted by Kat's remark in the chat. Take this seriously. No. Said the person sharing Doctor Who gifs. Hell.
No problem. Vadim, do you have follow-up actions to give Rhiannon a moment to think?
Yeah, so I will sort of mostly considers the fact that, again, the little Mog did not become red snow; they became regular snow. And so Vadim is like, internally he's like, maybe something is corrupted or influencing this Mog Queen. Then it hasn't yet disseminated unto the Mog. That's thoughts for people that are smarter than myself. I am going to go and attend to the soldier that had their stomach stabbed.
Yeah.
And make sure that they're, putting ample pressure.
Yeah.
I don't know what medicine these people have, but
indeed. You find her being helped by another of the guards that has come over to attend her. You can see that her hand is still holding her stomach, and it is bleeding quite profusely. That little thing did a number.
Is there? Yeah, if there's like bandages or clothing on her, I'm on her. I'm going to rip off and start, like packing it in, applying pressure.
Well, she has a very ornate outfit because of her status as a royal guard.
Perfect.
That means that there's tails aplenty to be able to turn into improvised tourniquets.
Perfect. And I'm going to help the soldier move. Let's get her moving and sort of hoist on the other shoulder and get her moving faster. I'll convene with the ledger person momentarily.
She says in kind of a delirious manner, "It felt like spring had come back just a moment ago."
I consider this, I think, compartmentalized. I will look and go, your wounds must be tended to first.
And as you do so, the one with the ledger, who is a small, slightly older man with kind of a lithe physique, says to you, you, sir, I must know. This," he plucks at the coat, "came from nowhere. A conjurer, then, are you?"
Of a very mild sort, but yes.
Only conjures coats.
Only coats. I can't make a coat rack, but I can make coats.
And he says, well, perhaps then you can conjure us out of here. He says, there's no way out. This is the highest point of the city, and the only thing beyond us is death in front, death to the left, death to the right.
Here I am, stuck in the middle with you.
Mog to the left of me, Mog to the right. Here I am. But I looked and, as I said, very limited. That is not an option. Do not believe it is. Let us reconvene with the rest of your friends. I look to their various scrolls and tomes. Anything of use in your arms there?
And he says, I'd hope there would be, but... He says, I just grabbed whatever I had to hand. He says, we must preserve some element of our kingdom as it falls to snow and blood.
Indeed. Perhaps you can take some deep breaths. Calm is required now, not hysterics.
And you hear over your shoulder, I would agree with that. The short man that you spoke to earlier has come up. He gives an approving nod to Vatim and Rhiannon and says, good work. He says, both of you make great loud noises when you strike. It's very impressive, very fearsome, but along the lines of calm and cooler heads must prevail, I believe it is time to fall back to make our last stand. He says, the barricade is not going to hold much longer, I believe. And even now I feel the cold deepening. He twitches his mustache. She's coming, I believe.
It would make sense.
To that point, can I get on the rooftops around the courtyard with the grappling hook assisting if I need to?
That's the key. Without that, the answer is a hot no. But with that, yes.
I high key was like, I want a grappling hook. I don't know if I'm gonna need to climb, but like I want a grappling hook. Anyway, yeah, so I will use the grappling hook to help me get on the rooftops, whatever the highest point in this courtyard is I can reach.
This is going to be like a full grapple all the way. Like this is like
absolutely.
A 3-story thing. So you might have to like get 2 stories up, climb it, and then do another one to get all the way up.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll spend as long as I need to do that. Just to get like as high as I can and just survey, see if there are things coming from outside the walls, if the queen is in sight currently, etc. Whatever I can glean from a vantage point.
Yeah, absolutely. As Rhiannon is climbing, Vadim, any actions from you as the short man is barking orders out towards the barricade guards to fall back?
Yeah, mostly. Yeah, not really. I will assist in the fallback.
Yeah.
But I'm going to look to the older man who was sort of losing it a little bit and say, Honored Elder, what is your name?
And after a moment, he says, Herlon. Herlon is the name.
Erlen. And are you a historian of sorts?
He says, well, you could be generous and call me that. A scribe, a chief scribe of the palace.
Scribe. Do you happen to have record of the most recent set of tributes that were doled out to the Mog?
I don't have it to hand, but I have it in here.
Exactly what was it? But part of me believes that something is either corrupted or is influencing the Mog Queen.
He starts to rattle them off. It's a long frickin' list, so I'm going to spare you the full details, but give me an idea of what you are listening for. I mean, obviously, Cursed Death Skull will be top of the list, but give me
definitely listening for shriveled up fingertips, soaked in alpine goat urine or something. But no, mostly the key things I'm looking for are foreign things. Things since they said they like giving that she liked for curios and the like.
Yep, absolutely.
For all I know, another nation has decided to make a play to stabilizing this place.
Yep.
Oh.
You can see that. You can see that the foreign curios that he describes, one, a large number of spices, of which the queen is extremely fond, and wants to sample whatever new ones they come across. 2, a beautiful series of jewelry made of a strange blue and green metal. 3, again, these are just in terms of like the foreign curios that she was given. 3, the how to describe it, like taxidermied body of a chameleon, for want of a better term. They wouldn't use the word chameleon; they'd say a strange lizard with a curling tail, but colorful as well.
I don't know what a chameleon is either. This works out
Indeed,
for me.
we simplify it.
Me, the player, I don't know what that is. No, but no, we're fine.
Indeed,
It's a Shamalalian.
the chameleon.
Yes.
Also about a dozen books in a variety of foreign languages. And the last of the foreign curios that she was given is a map of distant lands. A recent trading partner that had opened up.
I'll keep that one in mind. And I am definitely having this talk aloud near the clever courtiers who are definitely intelligent and sensible individuals and not just doing their best. But definitely like the foreign curious and any oddity, anything that was odd for the regular from the native lands. Like if somebody found a strange idol in the shape of a goat or something. Like I don't know. It's the mountains. They got goats.
There were 2 things that were non-standard this time. One is she had specifically requested a full report from her daughter's school teachers, and that was left along with a tribute. The report, as he describes it, 25 feet worth of scroll. And then follows up, and the other thing that was in any way out of the ordinary is, again, pertaining to her daughter's schooling. She had requested something of the school, and in this case, the school had sent a full version of their coat of arms in banner form.
To this I will say, I did not know that she had a daughter. Hey, question. Is the Queen of the Mog a Mog herself?
There's a moment, and to which the scribe says, "She doesn't look like one. I can only believe that she is, but we often think of them as ants here, you understand. The queen of an ant colony looks different from the ants."
Yes, this was communicated. Yes, the concept of a daughter versus her various created children was an interesting dichotomy.
He says, "Oh, and if you'd like to speak, her head teacher was," well, he looks around, "is here."
To that, I will just be like, where? Who?
And
Most important person in the room now.
And he quickly leads you into the gazebo amidst the crowd of nobles. You can see that there is a proud-looking man with a firm brow. He has immaculate facial hair, as do many of the men here. Not an old man, a tiny bit of gray in his hair, and his costume is similarly ornate to the rest, though looking at it, it does have a slightly different feel to it, if that makes sense. Like if everyone in this room was wearing a suit, he would be wearing, like, what's a good analogy? Like a military uniform, even if it's not military, just in terms of the slight differences in aesthetic.
Yeah.
And the chief scribe hurries up to him and says, Sir Rector, this fellow wishes to speak with you, sir." And the rector says, Peace, my friend. And says, "I don't think we need to be worrying about formalities with death approaching us like this."
None.
He says,
You were the instructor of the Mog Queen's daughter?
"Yes, my name is Ven Serene, as you can call me." He says, "I had expected to be only making a perfunctory visit. Her daughter has been behaving oddly for quite some time. She's been completely absent from school, and I had come to speak with her father about where that had... She may have vanished too, but he does not know where she is either."
Perhaps her mother knows. Where is Alfred? She's gone off somewhere. She'll be fine. Can someone leave a note that with where we are returning to?
And the scribe immediately produces paper and pen from nowhere and says, "At your service."
Right, we have a scribe now. Very good.
And from here, the rector says, "Do you propose we travel someplace? It seems as though we are penned in on every side."
From what I have been told by one of these lovely soldiers here, we're going to be moving to a fallback position momentarily as the air is getting colder, which only assume the Mog Queen is approaching. Listen, our job is to help cause her to retreat in some way, shape, or form. I'm sure that I sort of point up to where Rhiannon has been ascending. I'm sure that my allies and I would very much like to keep this as lacking conflict as possible, but I'm sure that something will come to blows. I'm quite certain I cannot handle a being that can simply control weather at a whim. So, if there's anything that you know about the history of this family, especially involving the daughter and the parents, that would be a good time to divulge, no?
Ben Serene says, "At the very least, I can say her power will be lessened here. This place, this spring," he says, "it defies winter, and has for quite some time. Far before our royal dynasty was founded. Well, not mine." He says, "It has never been frozen once, the waters. And it is the reason why the weather here is warm, despite the cold of the mountain. She will not be so strong as to freeze our blood in our veins."
Where exactly is the spring's origin? Further, and I sort of point up to like where I'm guessing the fallback position was. Is it there or is it right here?
The gazebo is the fallback position, just next to the spring. There's nothing
okay.
further back from that.
Cool.
You guys are faced with sheer wall beyond that.
Cool.
And he says, "Best guess is that it originates deep in the heart of the mountain."
All right. I'm going to make a bold guess and assume that she's going to try to freeze the waters. If that happens, we're probably all going to die, so let's make sure she doesn't.
I would tend to concur with that. Are you familiar with her daughter's birthright?
No.
He briefly explains
Scribe, you need to record this so that I can remember.
The pen flies as he recounts in brief the story of how the queen attacked after a marriage proposal was reneged, entered into marriage with the less than an hour ago king, had a daughter with him, and while the marriage was not pleasant, it was at least stable. And she only visited once or twice a year, and he visited out a couple times a year.
Okay.
He describes the marriage as being, from my perspective, not being from the palace city, it seemed purely political. Before we go further, I want to check in with Rhiannon, and then I want to go back to Justine. Rhiannon, after hard climbing, you have made it up to the top of the palace. You have a great panoramic view, and the city beyond the palace spills down in a beautifully organized yet seeming disorganized looking, actually organized fashion. The architecture is gorgeous. Some of it is on fire. All of it, however, is covered in red snow. You notice that in some places the snow is even putting out the fires. There is also sheer walls of red ice that flank the sides of one of the main thoroughfares that lead up the city. The city is, much like a lot of what else I have described, very elevationally disparate. And as such, from the bottom of the city, which you can see is less than a quarter mile away, up to where you are now is probably a climb of several hundred feet. The mountains spill down on both sides, and the little streams that trickle out from the spring that is in the courtyard you were in become cascading rivers before they even leave the city's walls. There are Mog everywhere, just to your eyes, thousands of them, with more coming down the mountains. The red ice that you can see, again, carving a path through the center of the town, in some cases rupturing buildings in the process, literally grows slightly larger before your eyes, as though it were spreading like ink climbing up a wetted piece of paper.
the red ice. I'm so sorry. I'm having a little bit of difficulty visualizing.
No
The
problem.
red ice seems to be growing like away from the city.
So in this
As
case,
if it,
imagine the city has like a main road that climbs up its center. The red
okay.
ice creates like a set of blooming walls that come off the side of that main thoroughfare and rip into surrounding buildings. And that set of red ice walls flanking the main thoroughfare seems to climb closer and closer to where you are.
Okay. So I get the sense that the red ice is okay. I see what's happening. Um,
Anything else
would
you
it
want
be
to look for or do from up here?
well, a quick follow-up question. Would it be safe to assume that the red ice is attempting to block any kind of escape or descent from this position?
It definitely looks like, at least in part, it is doing so. It is cutting off major thoroughfares and making it such that the only way down is to get over that ice wall onto the main thoroughfare, and then from there you're surrounded by ice and Mog. The Mog have zero problem navigating the ice and can move just as quickly on it as they can on solid ground.
Sure. Okay. Are all of the Mog the same sort of like shape and size and color? Is there any
Excellent question.
variation to them that would be very noteworthy?
There are two variations that you can see. One, Big Mog, it's just like the same model but large. And second of all, you can see a distinctly larger type of Mog that is slightly elongated and looks kind of quadrupedal.
Okay. Observing for a moment, does it seem like that's like an order giving sort of Mog, or is it like a beast of burden?
Beast of Burden seems to be the appropriate one in this case, especially
Dog
given
Mog.
that Dog Mog.
Dog mode.
Especially
One
given
brain
that
cell has been shared.
especially given that up higher on the mountain slopes surrounding the town, you see some of the Dogmog actually being used to haul ice like crashing icicle balls into place that roll down the sides of the mountain and slam into the walls to make breaches.
They've discovered siege weaponry.
Indeed.
Sick. Okay, cool. Do I see any like simple machines like levers or of the sort, you know? Or does it seem like they're just relying on like hills?
It seems that
Like,
they are only relying on hill. That is
Okay.
the extent of their siege weapon.
Okay, just checking.
Indeed.
Do I have eyes on the queen or any sort of notion of her passage
Where would you be
from
looking
this
for
position?
her?
Further, well, is it safe to assume she'd be coming from further up the mountain, since the city is the only thing below us?
Well, there is one exception, actually. They can come from any direction attacking the city except for behind you. The sheer cliff behind you goes to a very flat cap of a mountain and is the one mountain that doesn't have snow on it.
Okay.
And so you're near the peak of the one snowless mountain, but the Mog are coming from every other direction.
Sure.
And so probably further down the city is where she will be coming from. Especially
Okay,
because that
so-
seems to be where the breaches are, given that if they rolled down like snowballs from closer, they wouldn't have as much momentum to break through the walls.
Right. So the red ice is something of a red carpet for the queen.
That seems like a good guess at the very least.
Okay, so yeah, sort of tracing that path visually and looking, back in the direction, so to speak. Do I see anything that might signify her coming? Any sort of procession or, differences in the weather patterns near there?
Excellent question. Well, two things you can see. First of all, towards the head of where the ice wall is forming, the air is so cold you can literally see snow spontaneously appearing in the air. Second of all,
Fascinating.
there is a procession out ahead of it. You can see that there are a group of Big Mog that all are carrying large and relatively ornate poles or clubs that seem to have banners of snow draped from them.
That's really cool. Okay. This is maybe stretching the limits of things a little, but could I possibly have an estimate of like how long it would take her to ascend the city?
You said that Rhiannon was trained as a hunter, right?
Yes, and she has +2 to sensory.
Yeah, and so in terms of that stat and also her background, I think that giving a time estimate is something well within her power. The queen is close, less than 5 minutes, maybe even faster.
Sick. Okay. Okay. Cool. I will as quick as I can without, dying, descend from this position and try to update comrades on things. Something I should have asked earlier and I forgot to. Do we have any method of communicating with each other, like earpieces or
No.
anything of the nature? I didn't
Excellent
think so.
question.
Worth
Turns out,
asking.
as a brief aside, in Enclave, communication is really strong, and so I try to limit it.
Sure. Yeah, that tracks. Okay. So
Unfortunately,
yeah, I will.
going down dramatically easier than going up.
Sure. It generally is. It's the getting down safely that I'm worried about.
Indeed.
With everything being covered in snow and ice.
Yeah, with double plus skill and a grappling hook at your side, though, you can get down pretty quick.
Cool. Then yeah, I will attempt to, or I will get down and meet up with Vadim and Justine,
Absolutely.
and just relay all of that.
Speaking of Justine, let's jump over to her. A minute or two has passed since we last checked in with her. The water level is rising, and you have had to hop to progressively taller pieces of furniture. The Mog are continuing to be too hesitant to get in the water. They have once or twice kind of half-heartedly lobbed something at you guys, but every time have been too concerned with breaking the pretty thing to want to do it in any way hard. They are, however, bored, and because of that, are ripping the library apart.
Sucks. I mean, I'm flooding the library, so it's a party.
By this point, the water level is almost at the doorway, like the normal person doorway in, and the two of you are perched atop a bookshelf, the highest point in your section of the room that has not been flooded.
I really will be sorry to do this. But I think it may behoove us to topple this shelf and kind of surfboard it. Are you familiar with surfing?
I mean, well, there's only nobles here. The peasantry work the lands in the valley.
Oh, it's a different spelling and a different definition. So basically, you take this really nice flat board and you're able to stand upon it and ride on top of the water, almost like a boat, but
like a
without any
coracle.
steering mechanism.
Oh, not like a coracle.
Yes.
says-
Oh, I understand the theory. The execution may leave something to be desired.
I don't want to say goodbye to all of this knowledge, although I already have. And I do apologize for that. I will apologize to the rest of the governmental officials that have survived. However, I don't see any other way that we're getting out of here. We will need to hold on to the back of this bookshelf while throwing our weight forward so it topples forward. And I do have my walking stick, so possibly, with the buoyancy, I'll be able to steer us towards the door
She's
and at
biting
least
her
allow
tongue.
you out.
She's biting her tongue so hard it's bleeding, and she says,
Speak freely.
At your command, then, Highness.
No, darling, speak freely.
I'm
What is your
terrified,
concern?
Highness. This seems very, very dangerous, almost as dangerous as the Mog themselves.
What else is there to do, though?
Nothing, and that is why I said that you may issue your order and I will follow.
Believe me, this will work.
I see perhaps somewhat why they don't seem to harm you.
Very calming nature.
Reassuring, maybe.
Yes. So, I had a second thought.
Oh, good.
Instead
Yes.
of-
Pardon. Yes,
well,
please.
It still involves toppling the bookshelf, so
Oh.
don't be too excited. However, I do believe if we put it towards its back, it'll float better and we can possibly save some of these scrolls. So,
Right?
let us hook our feet over onto a shelf, hold
Right.
on to the
She
top,
grabs a sconce behind her.
and hurrah!
And as you do so, at this very moment, you hear a crack and a splinter as the hole you made in the window has been pushed in by water pressure and a massive gush comes in.
Going surfing!
The bookshelf wobbles forward and plops onto its front, with the two
Oops.
of you standing tipsily onto, or pardon, rather, back as you indicated, with the two of you standing tipsily on the books on it as you start to whoosh forwards. You hear a series of shrill alarm whistles as the Mog go scrambling over themselves to try to get out of the way of the water, but they are not going to be able to do so in time. The bookshelf goes coasting sinkingly across the room and bumps into the far wall near the door as the water level starts to spill into your footline.
All right. Is the doorway clear now of Mogs?
Yes, it is clear of Mog.
Out we go!
And as you hop out, your feet wet, but nothing else, and splash your way through, she says, "Where are we going? Are we trying to get out to the courtyard? Is that where people are convening?"
I do believe so. I don't have any way to discuss strategies with my colleagues.
Up.
Yes,
She
up.
rushes over towards a spiral staircase, and as she's starting to climb, screams and comes running back down, and you hear a telltale whistling as a Mog comes rocketing down the stairs with a club.
All right. So I Zagari, and if there's any light in the area that my coins can catch, I start doing some of my hardest, fastest shimmies.
And as you do so, the Mog rushes into place and again freezes, staring. It shivers a little bit, almost trying to imitate the shimmying that you're doing. And as you do so, the librarian gently tiptoes around you and tries to like pluck the club out of its hand. You can see that it actually lets the club go as it just stares. And as she does so, she takes the club and doesn't like hit it on the head, but instead tries to like, almost like she's playing croquet, like bop it into the library. And as she does so, it tumbles into the water.
We make a fantastic team.
Thank you. And then after a moment, her face turns to panic. Help, help, my hands are stuck.
Cool. Okay. Yes. Here, let me see. Pull out, piece of cloth. My super dry towel. Kind of just start trying to get her hands loosened up a little bit and then dig in. Gloves. You'll need gloves if you're going to be handling ice, darling.
Thank you. I hope not to again.
Well, again, we did make quite the pair there. You may have a position elsewhere should you ever desire it.
Thank you,
I can put in a
Majesty.
good word for you.
Well, let's try to survive first so you can do so.
Indeed.
She puts on the gloves quickly.
Don't forget your cudgel. And let us be
Picks
off.
it up. And you make your way up the tight spiral staircase from the top of it. She says, "Right!" And then as you rush along right, you make your way through like a small hallway that is lined with, as of now, broken planters full of like beautiful spring blossoming plants. You can see out of here there are windows that lead out to the courtyard that you could hypothetically climb out of.
Do you prefer window or door?
Window?
Okay. Out the window. In the window, out the window. It seems I don't know what the use of a door is.
This window, fortunately, has no glass, and as such, you can just kind of tuck your way through it. And from here, it's about a 9-foot drop down onto the planting beds of some of the flower gardens in the courtyard. How's Justine going to make her descent?
Well, what kind of planter beds are we looking at? Are we looking at bushes? Are we looking at just flowers that are soft stemmed?
Flowering shrubs of varying sizes, woody stems.
Ooh, hell no, I don't want to fall into that. Not only does it hurt, but coins will get caught.
As Justine is considering, she hears a whistle and another scream from the librarian.
So she'll grab her walking stick and kind of shove the librarian towards the window, walking stick braced to give the librarian something shorter to fall from.
And the librarian, panicked by the oncoming Mog in the hallway, of whom there are 5 at this point, does not do so, and instead just scrambles bodily out of the window and just tumbles out into the shrubs.
Well, I was going to try to... Okay. And feel free to tell me I have pulled too many things out of my pocket.
No, don't worry, I'm keeping track.
But I have an idea.
What's your idea?
Aquanet, hairspray, and a lighter.
I'm going to say
Hey,
yes.
GM, can we have a flamethrower right quick?
I'm going to say yes, but that's the last for a while.
Yeah.
And with this produced, what would you like to do?
I'm going to wait until they get just in range.
Oh yeah, they're rumbling up at great speed. You
So,
see a few of them are rolling about with another one pushing them along. Now, but as you start to... You see that they all come scrabbling to a halt and scramble backwards. They whistle to each other rapidly as they stare at the fire. You see that the one that had been rolling kind of unrolls itself and looks up. It's the one that's closest to you and is almost directly underneath the fire. It gives a high-pitched whistling squeak and rolls backwards. They stare at you inside of the tight hallway, the flamethrower at least holding them at bay for the moment. What would you like to do from here?
Tell your queen I want a word. I will see her at the spring. And I'm just going to throw the can of hairspray and the lighter at them. They can have those as tributes. And kind of tuck and roll, grab my stick, tuck and roll, and jump out the window.
Absolutely. You land on the librarian.
I don't have to worry about breaking anything.
Except her.
You hear a soft ow from beneath you as you do so.
Are you all right?
No.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to land on you. Here, let me help you up.
She is partially caught in a shrub and takes a moment of detangling. Fortunately, you did not get snagged in the shrub at all.
No, I landed on a soft person.
Indeed. After detangling her, her fine clothing completely ripped to ribbons at this point, her hair a complete mess, you find yourselves in the flower bed in time to see that the soldiers that had been by the barricade, which is not terribly far to your left at this point, have retreated back to the gazebo overlooking the spring.
Darling, I do believe I found where everyone is converging. To the spring. Back
Right.
where I started. I feel like I'm going in circles today.
She says, maybe, as she limps her way after you across the courtyard. At this point, we're going to jump back over to Vatim and Rhiannon. Rhiannon has at this point caught back up to Vatim at the gazebo, and as you described, relays everything that she has seen. We'll take it from here.
Well, we have 5 minutes to prepare these 4 fools, eh?
And 5 minutes is optimistic. GM, a quick question.
Yep.
Are they entering, or rather, will they be entering from the direction that the barricade is placed, or?
At best guess. Unless they
Okay.
take a rather roundabout route, which would not behoove the path that she has forged through the city thus far.
Right. Well, and the impression is definitely that she's, like, direct. She's not trying to meander.
Indeed.
We need to get these people out of here as best we can.
That is not an option. We are quite literally in a There's no place to leave from. There is a sheer wall in the mountain. If you want to find a way to ascend the cliff, I offer it to you, but I doubt it's going to work.
How high is the cliff?
It's pretty high. It's like well over 150 feet at a glance.
Oh, yeah, that is untenable. If we had days, it would still be untenable. All right, then just get them out of the way, maybe, so that we're the thing that is front and center.
Our job is to rebuff this queen. I'm going to say, by the way, I'm saying this in no element of a whisper.
Yeah.
Our job is to rebuff the queen, not to save all these lives. Unfortunately, they will need to help if they wish to see their land stay theirs. I think there is more than meets the eye here, but Justine is back. Wave.
Justine is making her way stridingly across the courtyard. There's a limping librarian behind her, who again looks over her shoulder and gives a hoarse scream as the barricade is breached by a sudden flood of Mog that burst and bumble their way through. Almost like a child jumping into a ball pit and all the balls go flying everywhere.
Right. Find the vantage point. I'm going to rally the men. And I'm going to walk forward towards the spring.
Yeah. Rhiannon, what would you like to do?
Yeah, I agree that a vantage point is smart. So I'm not going to go quite as high as I did last time. I'm just going to, like, whatever would be easily accessible and get me off the ground.
You have two big options, unless you have other things you want to try. The first one is the gazebo roof, which is pretty much where you are. The other one is there is a stand of trees very close to it.
Okay. Are there any rooftops near the sheer cliff, just so I can have something solid at my back?
Sure. The palace makes almost like a horseshoe around the courtyard, with the cliff making up the final wall. So it completely encloses the courtyard and actually goes straight up to the wall of the cliff.
Okay, cool. So I will set up on a rooftop near the cliff so that I can at least have some, at least a direction where I know I cannot be attacked from.
Absolutely.
It's safe to assume that these things can and will climb, right?
They
Like
have been
being off the
observed
ground
to.
is not
Yes.
like a guaranteed. Okay. So
Indeed.
yeah, I want to have a direction where I know they can't come from. And yeah, I will grappling hook, of course, get up on a rooftop.
Certainly. And Vadim, what would you like to do?
Alright, I'm going to stand in front of the spring. I'm going to draw my sword very ceremoniously, and I'm going to start speeching at the soldiers, getting all of their attention at once. So I'm going to sort of look at them. You who would guard the court, you who would maintain it, and the second one is I'm pointing at the non-soldiers, the court, the actual courtiers, and the what's left of the royal line. Come to me. Those who have fallen at the raging tempest of our foe, call us now to hold fast. This shall be a conflict to determine what governs these lands. Be it the turning of the season, I'm going to sort of point up towards the sky, or the unbridled, unending winter. And then I'm going to take off my helmet, and I'm going to scoop up a ton of the spring water.
Yeah.
And I'm going to sort of, with my, actually, in that action, stab my blade into the ground. And a hand face towards the rest of them. Knights, generous defenders of this spring, it is on us to be the turning of the season. Ever shall the spring push out the cold. I come from a land where the seasons are governed not by fickle regents, but by time and natural law. Today, this may be our last. Let us be the turning of the time, the rotation of the earth, the envoys of spring. I sup from the spring water. And then I beckon forward, and I hold the my helmet aloft. As I do, I would like to be focusing a big to arms.
And what are you going to be creating?
Anyone who drinks from this spring water I want to give them a set of not ceremonial armor, but battle-ready plate. These guys are the Mog have to get into little nooks and crannies. The best thing I can do is give them a bulwark to just stand their ground because they are not going to have another chance to. And hopefully, by supping from this spring, by pulling this unmelting warmth into them, it'll help stave off some of the cold magic. And Vatim is also helping this for himself because he's just like, well, here come the gremlins.
And as he steps to the side, the soldiers as one step forward, and making up a small trail behind them, many, but not all, of the courtiers. You can see that chief among them is the short man who you first talked to, who leans down and puts a hand into the spring, and as he brings it to his mouth says, "You know it's taboo to do this," as he drinks from it. And he says, "But I can't deny that," as he gently tosses the rest of it back into the spring itself, "I am moved to go beyond taboo at this moment."
As he says that, I'm going to literally baptize myself in the rest of the water that's still in my helmet as I place it onto my head. Why not live a little, eh?
As this first man drinks, the armor appears around him. And others begin to follow suit. Justine, this is as you are arriving into conversation distance with Vatim. You can see one by one members of the guard and the court are becoming enrobed in armor as they drink from the spring. You heard much of Vadim's speech as well.
My friend, I do have an librarian, not an archivist. So, we are making our stand here, I'm presuming.
Yes. As I start to speak with each person that drinks, I'm just going to lean onto my sword that's still stuck on the ground.
Yeah.
Yes. That took a lot out of it. Right. This the key. I point to the was it Venserain? Was his name?
Venserain.
I point to Venserain and just like forcefully motion over. Listen, I think this has something to do with the Queen's daughter. Or in some way, there has been trouble with her relationship with her father. Trouble. People didn't know where she was. I think she's connected somehow. Put your brains together while I hold the brawn. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I had the same thoughts. The librarian and I were having a grand discussion.
Oh, really? Grand discussion. Nice. I say that as I'm thinking about the poor knight whose stomach just got spooned. I'm just like, yes.
Well, you do what you must, sir. I didn't catch your name, and I don't think there's time enough for pleasantries. What can you tell me of the Queen's daughter?
Before we go further, Rhiannon, you had a thing?
I was just going to ask, while I'm up on the rooftop and just sort of preparing for things, are there any like loose stones or even just like a roofing tile that happens to be
roofing
like loose?
tiles.
Okay, so can I just, have you ever heard of a meteor hammer?
Yes, I do know of the meteor hammer.
Okay,
excellent.
I'd like to take a few minutes and remove the grappling hook and just create a sort of rough and dirty meteor hammer out of like loose roofing tiles or whatever's up there that would like give some heft.
Oh yeah,
just as a backup option.
With your double plus skill and the fact that your grappling hook head is easily removed, this will take like maximum 30-40 seconds.
All right, so yeah, that's just to my side as like as an option if I run out of bullets, because we're dealing with a horde. And then
Speaking of which, by the way, you would also notice as you were crafting this that sure enough the Mog are starting to climb the outside, coming out of far windows and actually concealing themselves from the people in the courtyard very, very well. They're moving slowly and quietly, flanking up the outer edge of the palace and not quite yet cresting the roof.
Okay. As soon as the thing is crafted, I will start taking shots at things that are ascending, and just opening the festivities, so to speak.
As you puff one or two of them into snow, they immediately notice your presence, and many of them drop out of sight initially, but you soon see that further along the roof, out of your direct firing angle, some are starting to climb over and onto the top.
So yeah, I just holler out. I'm not going to literally yell, but I holler out to those in the courtyard. Eyes on the rooftops!
And Vadim, you would not yet see what Rhiannon is seeing, but you hear her gunfire.
Hearing it, I will motion to the two slingers that I saw before.
Yep.
And just sort of like...
You see that they look up and begin to whirl. Additionally, remember that burst of Mog that entered through the barricade? They haven't rushed you guys. Instead, they are making their way methodically through the courtyard, pulling out any flower or plant they can find by the roots. They're digging them up. They're gnawing at them. In the case of trees, they are literally working together to rip out the roots, chop at them with ice axes, and take them down.
I'm gonna pull out my revolver and just pop one.
Once again, in that little section of the courtyard, many scatter, but in the other sections, they continue. And in the section that's scattered, they start to creep in not too long thereafter. Wherever you take down one, there's a dozen more to replace it. But at this point, you now have a pretty substantial number, almost 25 individuals in heavy armor. I will note, as you have already indicated, Vadim is feeling it. His heartbeat is echoing in his brain. His eyes are shimmering with almost heat haze. His lips are dry, and he feels a weird mix, or not even a mix, a weird sense of elation kind of creeping up the back of his mind.
All right. I didn't think I was gonna do this, but I think I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm going to walk into the spring. Fully, I'm going to face plant into it.
Yep.
And as I do, I'm going to sort of, breathe out of my nose, but sort of open my mouth and just feel it for a moment. Shake my head in it.
Are your eyes closed?
I will initially, yes, and then they will open.
You see something interesting at the bottom of the spring. The spring is perfectly clear, and the bed of it is made of perfectly smooth stones, evenly spaced. It's impeccably manicured. However, there is an irregularity at the middle point of the bottom.
I approach. I will sort of hold that breath a little bit, using, letting my resilience sort of, I didn't think I need to do this.
Yeah.
And just claw my way down towards
You're
it.
heavy enough that it's not hard for you to go down. Before we go further, though, Rhiannon, after taking your first shots and yelling back to them, the Mog, clearly having been preempted of their ambush, start to come fast. Not only and it's not the small ones this time, some of the big Mog are now beginning to barrel their way up the edge, climbing with their powerful graspers and quickly approaching the edge that you are standing nearest to. There's, at perfunctory glance, minimum 3, probably more immediate actions.
Okay. So, Rhiannon has her gun hand sort of like poised on top of her other hand, just for like stability's sake, and in that other hand is the knife.
Yeah.
And can I, instead of shooting the Mog directly as they're climbing up, can I aim for like sections of the roof to try to loosen and like basically I want to screw up roofing tiles and like try to make them fall.
Yeah.
And take damage that way and try to like get multiple at once rather than trying to, shoot them one at a time.
Let's begin with this. How many shots are you committing to this? Is this going to be a full barrel you're committing to this?
Yes. I wanna get as many of these out as I can.
Absolutely. And after doing so, and presumably reloading immediately thereafter?
If I have the space to do so, like if I have the physical space that I can do so without getting
You do
attacked,
have the
yes.
physical space to do so. Yeah. And at
Okay,
the
then
very
yes,
least, you'd be
absolutely.
like halfway through by the time the first one of them gets its hand on the upper lip and the roofing tile comes straight off as it had put all of its weight on that one hand. These things almost like they climb so quickly, and because of that, a missed hand like this caused it to come popping right back out and go plunging down with a deep from its whistling call as it goes down and crashes bouncingly off of some of the other ones that are climbing. This buys
Gotcha.
you more than enough time to finish refilling your gun, and also to note two other things. One, smaller Mog further along the rooftop from you are coming over in larger groups. And second of all, you are the first to notice that the entryway to the courtyard is starting to have red ice creeping around it.
All right. So I call out the red ice, of course, and announce that the queen is almost certainly going to be here soon.
Yeah.
And yeah, I essentially will keep just doing what I can to protect the courtyard from like the rooftops.
Yep.
I will use basically everything until I get to like the last bullet, and then when I have one left, I will switch to the meteor hammer and be using that in a more short range.
So you are just completely unloading on any Mog that you're seeing. Is that what I'm hearing?
Essentially, yeah. I'm doing my best to hold the line up top, because if the ones are if they come over the rooftops, we are screwed. So I'm just
Yeah.
doing my best to make sure that doesn't happen.
And fortunately, the little Mog are skittish about your gunshots. Whenever you shoot one, the ones near it kind of scatter. And because of that, you can actually keep not only the roof that you're, like the side of the roof you're on clear, but much of the rest of the roofs as well if you are doing sweeping movements with your gun
Yep.
as you are shooting. Jumping back down to Justine. You have approached the man that Vadim indicated to you was a teacher to the queen's daughter. What do you want to do? You have just said the line about not being time for pleasantries.
I need to know what has been going on with the princess. I presume that's her title, or the
Yeah.
queen's daughter, the king's daughter, whoever's daughter. What's been going on with her lately?
He says, I wish I could tell you. She is a very private girl and often keeps to herself at school. Yet, we know of her presence. We see her work, she does not miss class, and she is impeccably talented at what she does. However, for the first time in her entire schooling career, besides one memorable incident many years ago, she has been tardy. Not only tardy, completely absent from school. It is a boarding school, and as such, she is presumed to live there. We do not make a point of prying upon our students. However, after she had not been seen in classes for a week, we decided to search her room. This was not easy to do, as she had layered enchantment upon it, but after breaching it, we found that she had not been there for quite some time. I came immediately here, and I was not yet able to speak to the king when the attack commenced. I had been told, however, by some who know the girl, that she had not been seen here either, or at least not since her last visit, which was, as of now, I'd say about 3 weeks ago.
She any friends?
No. She is a very private girl and is often described as cold and distant by her classmates.
I'm curious. Damn it, Vadim, this is not a time for a swim. Whatever. Is there anything that you can think of that would cause this child to run away from school?
I can tell you the one other time it happened. This was many years ago, one of her first years in the school. She was very unhappy. We were trying to accommodate her as best we could. But between her disposition and her antisociality, it was very difficult for us to make her life comfortable. She would attend her classes and do her work, and beyond that, we had very little ability to communicate with her. She ran away directly to her mother. And we eventually deduced, after her mother very angrily interacted with us, that apparently the girl required climatization. We were not aware of this. It was too warm for her, effectively, and it was bringing her out of her mind. But since then, we have taken every effort to climatize every room within the school that she is. She is also now magically gifted enough to do so herself. He says, we regularly make wellness checks on her, and at no point have been told by her or her parents that she is unwell. He says, to us this was very much a surprise. While she has not friends within our establishment, she is an impeccable worker and has never missed a class. Even when she ran away, she had finished a week's worth of coursework in advance, and it was waiting for us in her room.
And the other students, are they kind or are they cruel?
She keeps her space and they keep theirs, is as best I would describe it. I remember when she first joined, several tried to make friendly advances, but perhaps she has not the facilities to engage with them in that way.
No bows or gentle friends of any sort that you are aware of?
He raises his eyebrows slightly and says, no, I would be stunned to learn of such a thing. He says she occasionally is visited by her family. Her father visits quite frequently. Her mother cannot visit very often. From what I understand, she is somewhat bound to these mountains. Her aunt visits semi-often, but beyond that, not particularly. She does love her father, if you are wondering.
I presume that she will not be happy when she hears of this news.
Yes. No.
Well, thank you. I think I'm going to see if Vatim is drowned.
Vadim, you have reached the bottom of the spring.
All right. For what it's worth, I do have a plus to sensory.
Indeed.
What this irregularity though?
You see, pulling aside the stones, and you find one of the points at which water is seeping up in like a more pronounced fashion. It's not like a current, right? But it's a seepage point. And also within the seepage point, you find something that absolutely doesn't look like it belongs there. You see a beautiful bluish white pearl.
What is my gut feeling when I look at it?
Eat it.
I have a just put
This
it all
is like
in
good
your
caviar.
mouth at the same time.
If it fits in mouth, it is food.
Your immediate gut reaction. Let me think about how I'd phrase this for him. It would be like looking at a family photograph.
I grab.
Your hand immediately feels so unbearably cold that your fingers clench in place.
Okay. Up. Because can I move? I cannot move my hand.
You cannot move that hand.
Up.
Now you have to walk out. You can't. You're too heavy. You
Yep.
can't just swim out.
This is fine.
And so Vadim trudges back to the edge just as Justine is emerging, and as his head breaches, he would have to like do a huge gasp for it.
I hold my fist up.
Yep. Justine, what do you want to do?
Since I
Puts out her skirt to grab whatever wet thing he's got in his hand.
let's go. It'll help.
Okay. Then curl your elbow around this like that one time we went fishing. She busts out her walking stick for leverage.
Needles.
Yeah, well, they're delicious. Thank you again. And she starts scooching him out.
He's hauled out of the water, And as he does so, you guys hear the first sounds of conflict as the encroaching Mog are being driven away from getting too close to the spring by the armored individuals. Additionally, you hear Rhiannon's clear voice call out, the queen is approaching.
What have you got?
I don't know, but hey, is my hand like freezing?
You don't know because you're wearing stuff over it, but it feels like it is.
Screw it. I'm going to pull off some of the panoply that covers my upper arm.
Yep.
And just like, and like cut, take my sword and cut away some of the cloth.
Yeah. And you can see that your skin is slowly turning a deep, unhealthy purple. Justine,
And
what
I
else
can't
is it
move
is?
my.
And you can't move your hand.
Darling, I don't think gloves are going to fix that.
Whatever
So,
I'm holding, you're going to want to take a look at, or use, or something. So if you can't find a way to open my hand, well, I guess we're going to have to cut it off. I like this hand.
I know you like that hand. The ladies like it too. Anyways, let's see here.
While you're thinking, Rhiannon.
So it's not magically hidden.
Covering fire on the roof, you see the banners emerging. Out into the courtyard, held by the big Mog. There are so many small ones flooding out over the courtyard in front of them that it's almost like the once green and beautiful place is now almost a field of white. They are continuing to rip up plants and trees wherever they go. Though you notice that even as the banners emerge and a great gust of frigid wind blows out over the courtyard, her ice does not encroach further in than the walls of the palace.
Okay. Can I see Vatim and Justine doing what
Yes.
they're doing?
You can see that Vadim has come out, like you heard him gasp. That was a pretty notable one because Vadim gasping is a very different sound from Mog whistling and fighting.
Right. Okay, so they clearly have something of
Yeah.
note. So Rhiannon has this deep frown on her face for a moment, just this really intense, serious look. Takes a deep breath, puts away her weapons for the moment, and just like lets herself slide down the sloped roof.
Yeah.
And how high up am I before I
You're
commit
like-
to this?
You're like 3 stories up.
Oh Jesus, okay.
You got a grappling hook.
I don't. I turned it into a meteor hammer.
Indeed.
Is there anything below that rooftop that could theoretically break a fall?
You do have trees.
Okay. Yeah, I will move to a position where I can like land in a tree and then like make my way down.
Yep.
And essentially I am just like calmly, collectedly just moving towards the gate.
Yep.
And like hands are in my pockets and I am just like slowly walking towards the gate. I've let my hat like blow off. It's scattered on the ground somewhere.
Oh yeah,
Her
it got caught in
red
a tree
hair is
branch
just like,
for sure.
what's that?
It got caught in a tree branch for sure.
That works. Her red hair is just like blowing in the wind that's about, and just walking towards where the queen is undoubtedly entering. And I am attempting to make use of standoff. Just trying to position myself as this obvious thing and trying to distract for a moment, for lack of a better way to put it. They're trying to figure something out. I'm trying to make sure they don't get, absolutely wrecked in the meantime.
Absolutely.
So I'm just making my way to like interface with the queen directly.
And as you do so, a few Mog take swipes at you with their weapons, and yet the protective power of standoff actually rebuffs their attacks, enough so that they only get off a few before kind of like moving backwards and looking at you with like nervousness You know, that the thing of like why the
Yeah.
animal thing of why is this calm? This should not be calm.
If you'll allow it, I'd also like to add that little bits of like roots and other sorts of plant life are almost grasping towards her feet. It's not adding anything mechanical at the moment.
No,
It's
no,
just
no.
like
I get you,
it,
and I like it.
yeah, sort of building off of like earlier effects. She's just
Yeah.
channeling that like calm and just moving slowly, carefully, obviously toward the creeping red ice.
Now, as she does so, she sees that the banners are blocking her view and are clearly very deliberately positioned such that they give the queen a great veil of snow banners to protect her visage from being looked upon. But as you get closer, and the Mog are again the small Mog are continuing to part and stare and look very, very unnerved, you can see that just for you, a gap is opened in the banners. You see her for the first time. Her face is angular and jagged. She's strange in her features, beautiful but entirely alien. Her eyes are huge and glossy like the other Mog. She has more human-like facial features, but they're pointy, not like not like elven pointy, like crescent moon pointy and pronounced. Her hair is made of the same shaggy stuff as the Mog's fur, and it spills down onto her shoulders like a great woolen shawl. And her body is insectoidally thin and tall, towering at almost 9 feet in height, even though she looks light enough that you could pick her up. She peers at you with one of her huge, glossy eyes between the banners, not making any motion or remark, even though, again, her features are more humanoid than the other Mog have been. What does Rhiannon want to do?
Greetings, my lady. My name is Rhiannon. To what do I owe the pleasure of your entrance?
As the queen looks at you, you can see that her body is made of a white blue ice, much similar to the Mog when they poof apart. However, as you talk to her, you can see like a cuttlefish lacing ribbons of red race up and down her. They fluctuate in and out, making polka dots and then bands and then expanding rings. As your voice rings out, she makes no response, but when she finally does respond, her voice is ethereal and echoing. It has a fluting quality to it, not entirely dissimilar to the way the Mog whistle. As she says, "Stand aside. Winter comes to the spring."
I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. What was that?
Winter comes to the spring.
Is there a way that I can assist you?
You can see that her fluttering red pulses out wildly, vanishes momentarily, and then comes back in full force. As she says, after another long pause, "I have all the assistance I need. Winter at my back, my fingers at my side. No more humans, I think, are needed."
Is that your aim? To dispose of the humans?
And her whole body is overwhelmed by a throb of red. As she says, "You are far more trouble than you are worth keeping." The ice that is creeping out from the entrance that she has emerged from suddenly jaggedly spikes off and kind of flares out around her like a fan. It seems to follow her emotions almost directly.
What has created this turn of events?
And as you do so, you can see that her shoulders hunch up and her brow furrows in and her huge eyes become dilated in as weird a way as that can be for something with no pupils. And you can see that the red deepens. The spiking ice around tries to grow out into the courtyard, but cannot go further. But as she does so, there's a great gust of cold wind that emerges and blows through Rhiannon's hair. It is frigidly cold. So cold it almost feels like her hair is freezing momentarily when it passes. And as you do so, the queen, twitching slightly and unable to form a coherent sentence, simply mutters, like breathily, in your general direction, but almost no longer directly speaking with you. Only ever taking, ungrateful, taking from me.
What was taken?
There's a gust of wind as her eerie, fluting voice raises in a shriek, and she says, "Silence! Silence!" Your lips are so cold that for a moment you couldn't speak even if you wanted to. Her Mog look to her, and she turns her head away from you, and she says, "Tear it all up! Tear it all up! All of it! Not one blade of grass left." And though temporarily stymied by you and her interaction, they immediately busily get back to work, clear-cutting the lawn. What would Rhiannon like to do? I'll give you a moment to consider. Justine and Vadim.
Well, darling, I believe that is our cue. I wonder, do you have the missing piece?
Probably. I'm
Shall
going
we?
to take my sword, and I'm going to break my fingers off.
Hell yeah.
Sort of like I am popping open a clam, and I'm going to as I do it, I'm going to look back to my to the group of soldiers, and I'm going to begin chanting. Our roots are deep. Our roots are deep. And then I'm going to activate Girathanks, trying to draw them into the chant.
And as you do so, the chant is taken up as they roar and bellow and shove away Mog and keep them away from the spring, howling at them. Some of them even becoming so fervent, with their lives so on the line and their backs against the wall, that a few of them even take off their newly conjured helmets and fill them with spring water and throw them at the Mog. Well, not the helmets, but the water itself.
Yeah. And on the third one, after... Oh,
yeah, on the third one. Carry on.
On the third one, after the call has been resounded enough, that's when I'm going to shuck my hand. And I'm going to use that to... and just, like, bellow out through it. And see what I picked up.
There's a crack, and Vadim feels no pain.
Didn't think I would, but it's...
Uncannily little pain. But the sensation is gut-wrenchingly awful.
The dead feel no pain.
I'll get it back later.
And you and Justine both see the beautiful little pearl perched in the palm of your hand.
Shall I leave you then?
I have seen you turn a paperclip into something that would woo an entire room full of people. This has power in it. Make it something that will calm her down, so that I can go home and get my fingers back.
I will. So,
but don't touch it. That would be a bad idea.
I grab my scarf that I put on and make a little nest for it and allow him to drop it in my hand, and then I will Zagarit to get the queen's attention.
Now, 2 notes. First of all, Rhiannon, as Vadim started up his chant, the Mog, who had gotten back to ransacking, are they are turned, and for the first time, you see them well and truly afraid. Not nervous, not scattered, afraid. They start pulling back to their queen, quailing at the sound and at the water thrown to them. You hear her shrill voice whistling in their language, but in her pitch, and her ice pulses and throbs, making shapes like glass sculptures over her head, though the banners have come back to obscure her face. Standoff is still active. Any follow-up actions from Rhiannon?
Yes. A quick question. Given Rhiannon's history, and I sent you stuff about that before.
Yes, you did.
Do I get the sense that this queen is experiencing a similar sort of loss, and thus a similar sort of vengeful feelings?
Because of your single plus to spirit, I will tell you right now that you see a mirror in her.
Okay. Rhiannon just very slowly, very carefully, clearly with empty hands, reaches up and like pulls off the scarf, the thing that's wound around her neck. You have lost. And there are so few who understand what. I do not understand what you have lost exactly, but I do know loss. And vengeance without aim is ruin. This is all I have left of my child. And she has like she is gripping it with like white knuckled like nails digging into her palm, like fury, refusing to let go of this baby blue woolen blanket as it's like whipping about in the wind. Ice beginning to form on the edges of it. This is all I have left. And there is not a single day that goes by that I do not imagine every conceivable pain inflicted upon the person who caused it, who took everything that was good and valuable from my life.
The banners part slightly, revealing her eye.
If I visited that vengeance upon every creature who looked like the one responsible, there would be none left alive anywhere. It must be focused. It must be needle sharp. Please. I am begging you as a mother. Stand down. And her arm is still like extended with it, like holding up. Doesn't matter if she's starting to experience hypothermia. She is focused squarely and solely on the queen at the moment.
Her white-blue face looks back at you, and a gentle breeze blows at the scarf. You hear her piping voice say quietly, so quietly that without your sensor you couldn't have heard it, "Spare that one." As though to herself. Jumping back to Justine. Just before this happens, you have taken your little nest, and as soon as the pearl is dropped into it, you feel the cold in your hands immediately. What do you want to do?
Grabbing up my skirts and getting some extra layers between the cold and my hands.
Even after you have like a dozen layers, it's still bad, but it's not unbearably bad.
All right, as long as I can bear it, then I'm going to purposefully start striding towards the queen, do my best, loudest Zagarit, hope that the shinies are distracting the Mogs.
Well, that and the fact that the armored individuals are walking alongside you, continuing to chant and continuing to drive back the Mog. Will Vadim be walking with them, for the record?
No. Not yet. I am... Even though I can't feel this hand, I have riled myself up. He's in the mode. He is just in be a pillar, and effectively he's going to pull out his bugle and just start like just and like in between breaths of bugling, just like guttural screaming. Just I am going to stay pillar so that these soldiers can fight, because right now I don't have my dominant hand.
And as you are doing so, Justine's call causes the banners that shield her face to part. And now Justine is looking at her other eye as Rhiannon is looking at one. The two of you approached her from different directions. You can see that her look, now that you both have seen her, I guess I can describe, you can almost imagine her features as being like aggressively Art Deco human, but like with super pronounced features.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
She
Your
looks at
ladyship, are you missing a piece of yourself?
her eye unblinkingly swivels. Again, there's no pupil, so it's hard to tell what she's looking at, but her head tilts slightly and the eye shifts slightly. A wind blows through, catching up the hair of both Rhiannon and Justine. And you hear her fluting voice. Give it to me.
Will you then be willing to have an accord? Or at least negotiations?
Who found it?
My comrade back there, the one who is bugling.
She raises one long icicle finger and points first to Justine and then to Vadim and says clearly, spare those two as well.
Now,
What would Justine like to say?
darling, your ladyship. I would like to entreat you to spare all and renegotiate the standing of your contracts. I do understand that possibly your child has gone astray,
She
but I've
pulses
heard
and ripples.
nothing
She ripples
of her
red.
being gone.
She ripples a brilliant red and says,
No,
she's gone.
no. How do you know that for sure? If I may ask, I know it is presumptuous. However, I would like to help.
Her voice splits the air as she screams, you hold her!
That is why it
Oh.
was so strong. I understand now. I literally am holding a piece of you.
That's all there is left.
Have you evidence of the person responsible? Because I seriously doubt that the archivist who loved your daughter so would have had anything to do with this. Nor her teacher. The people that I have spoken to have nothing but glowing memories of her and how she was, albeit like you, a bit, as they would say, cold, I would say reserved, and that is quite all right, as well you should be. They loved her dearly and saw a warmth within her.
She ripples red again. With Rhiannon seeing one eye and Justine seeing the other. She says, give it back to me.
As I said.
A Mog scurries up with its hands grasping.
God, these are so adorable. I really wish I could take one with me.
It grasps for the pearl.
I lean down and let it take it.
It greedily grabs it and rolls backwards into the throng of Mog.
They roll?
They roll.
I want one
You
of
didn't
those,
tell
Your
us
Highness.
that?
I mentioned it in passing a few times.
Uh-huh. I
I'm a
caught
bad
it.
listener, apparently.
And
I'm just imagining Elsa's little snowmen from Frozen.
and
With-
as they do
with
so,
hair.
and as they do so, she says, "There will be no further accord." She turns her face to Rhiannon. "You are partially right, I think." Vadim and the armored soldiers have created like a solid line halfway across the courtyard. Your numbers are not great enough to spread thinner than that, but the Mog are, for the time being, huddled entirely around their queen in great piles. And she says, "A choice, then, to be made. I need either them," her finger passes across the courtyard, "or," she points to the spring, "it." This would be the point at which Vadim hears as well.
Is the spring necessary for the people's survival?
Without it, the farmland will go fallow, and people will have to leave this place.
Is that like a years long thing, or is it like the next crop season is screwed?
Next crop season is screwed.
Where are we at in the year currently?
You actually don't know. You would have to ask one of the armored soldiers. There's a few nearby.
What time of year is it? Is it safe to assume that standoff has worn off by this point?
Yes, it has.
Okay. Rhiannon begins just sort of like refastening the scarf around her neck, stretching her fingers, just sort of trying to warm up after all of that. And just as she turns away, just, what time of year is it?
The man says, "Spring."
Planting.
The queen of the Mog looks between Justine and then to Rhiannon and then to Vadim.
Choose them or that.
Why? And I'm going to step forward. If it is a good reason, then surely you will be able to get one.
She says,
I know not the perpetrator, hence them.
she says,
I deeply wish to take vengeance. And yet,
she gestures to Rhiannon.
she has, no doubt, some truth. And so I propose an alternative. One that will make it such that I do not need to deal with humans anymore.
Red pulses through her again.
A quick clarifying question, GM. Is she specifically asking us whether we want to sacrifice the entire city or just the courtiers? Or
It seems she is indicating the people in the courtyard.
okay, so it's like kill these 20 people or 30 people and spare the city, or doom the
City
entire
and
city
surrounding lands.
and surrounding lands.
Yep.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm going to look back at the people who are still there.
Yeah.
Who isn't in armor?
There are a group of 5. You can see that all of them are courtiers of it or attendants of some kind. You see that one is a very old man, one is a very young girl, one is a kind of middle-ish aged man, and the other 2 are slightly on the older side women.
and the both the archivist and the older scholar.
Yep.
Who
They are in armor.
Are they? They're in armor.
Yep.
All right. So I'm going to stride as close as I can to the queen.
Yep. As you start to stride
just
forward, her Mog quail before you, and her banner opens wider such that you and Justine can both see her through the same entrance.
Is she
Decide,
walking?
please.
Pardon?
Is the queen walking, or is she on like a...
Excellent question. She is on a litter, yes.
Thank you. Palanquin was the word that was coming to mind. but it wasn't
Palanquin
what
is
I meant.
also a good word for it.
Okay.
Mhm.
So we would exact your vengeance on those that you deem, sort of at this point, just like phantom clenching my hand a little bit, on those who you believe perpetrated the crime. Yes? I will, in that case, I will make the choice for you. I'm going to walk back to the 5 courtiers.
As you do so, a few of the folk in armor turn to look, and one of them, the short man from the beginning, says, "What is upon your mind?"
I'm not going to respond.
A few of them follow him, with the shorter man saying, "Listen, you have done great work, but you do not... I dread to think what you're about to..." As you're approaching the gazebo, what do you want to do?
So there's 5 of them, you said?
Yep.
Yeah. I'm gonna cut them all down.
Oh shit.
I'm grabbing my sword, and with the roariest roar that I can pull up, I'm just going to if I can get them in 2 slices.
There are screams, some try to flee. There's roars from the men in armor and women in armor, as many break ranks to try to rush and hold Vatim back. But the 5 are completely unarmored and did not hear the conversation, meaning that they did not have any preparation for this.
Yeah.
Rhiannon and Justine, if they are watching, would see this frankly horrific scene as the cliff-facing gazebo are daubed in blood.
Just like bear hunting. Not my favorite day.
Vatim is tackled by one of the armored men.
In response to being tackled, I'm going to and burst a shield wall out from my back. Just enough to launch.
Yeah, the shield wall flanks you. The queen is staring at you over the entirety of the courtyard, which is silent but for the roaring of the men and women desperately trying to, in some way, resuscitate or protect those you have cut down and get to you, though your shields protect you for the moment.
I'm going to point to the queen with my sword. Not in a threatening way, but in a pointing way. A nice diagonal blood splatter across my face. And I will, for the sake of the stream, I'm not going to scream. But in a very loud yell, just say, "I have repaid the crime committed against you. And these men," as I point back to the people surrounding me, "are witness to it. Those 2," I point to the scribe and the archivist lady, "will paint it and set this moment in stone. The ones who have done wrong do not stand up to prove their innocence. The innocent stood up to show you that it was not their fault, that they did not deserve your ire. Is that a good enough covenant for you, eh? Or shall cruelty beget cruelty?"
The Queen of the Mog stares at Vatim and then turns her full gaze to Rhiannon.
Would you have accepted this?
Rhiannon breaks the queen's gaze for a moment, sort of staring like down and past her like middle distance, sort of staring with like an unreadable flat expression for a moment. I agree with his assessment. Had they been innocent, they would have fought. They would have protected themselves. They were cowards. It is impossible to... Sorry.
Carry on. Please carry on.
It's impossible to say what any of them personally did, but I have no trouble believing that they were complicit.
The Queen of the Mog looks to Justine and says,
Thank you for bringing her safely to me.
Of course, your ladyship, of course.
She whistles. And you feel your Enclave badges ping. Final actions.
I'm going
May
to
I come
yell...
and visit?
That's gonna happen. I'm gonna yell louder than I have, and I'm gonna yeet my sword out off the cliff.
Yep. Well, the cliff rises high behind you, and so in this case,
Oh,
into
sorry.
the spring
I
would
thought
be more
this
appropriate.
all sort of went up.
Or it goes up and then sheer cliff beyond, going straight up.
Sorry. Let me. Okay.
So into the spring if you want somewhere to throw it.
Yeah, into the spring.
And as Justine calls after, the queen does not respond as she and her entourage turns. However, a Mog comes trippingly stumbling up to her and hands her a small scroll.
Thank you, my darling. And I rip off one of my coins from my shirt and place it in its hands real
It
quick.
grabs it immediately, clutching it to its chest
It's a shiny.
as it coils up and rolls into a ball as another Mog comes up and pushes it like a barrel.
Yippee! Yippee!
And final actions from Rhiannon.
Not yet fully convinced that it's over, even though the medallion's pinged. Rhiannon just watches the queen until she's out of sight. Just frown on her face, just ready for things to go to hell again, until she's like confident they won't. Yeah. Essentially, the entire like time all of this was happening, she was just like ready for a quick draw at a moment's
Indeed.
notice. So she's just like trying to make sure that's not still necessary.
She does hear something behind her as Vadim's shield wall has faded and he is being jumped by literally everyone. But as they are jumping him, his armor vanishes off of them. So in this case, he's being jumped by a bunch of people who are in like court beds.
Right.
What does
All right,
Vadim want to do after throwing his sword? Rhiannon, finish what you were saying first.
She's just like yelling at them that that's enough. It's over. Stop.
And what would Vadim like to do?
He's gonna take every hit they have.
And as
He's
you
not.
do so,
He's not gonna tense for it. He's not gonna muscle up for it. He isn't gonna brace. He is going to take all of their rage.
you hear a discordant melee of voices. And chief among them, the short man he met at the beginning. We trusted you. And on that note, we will end the mission.
No gratitude. We saved their entire city. No gratitude.
Beautifully done.
I mean,
Dangerous
it's no
call.
friends.
That was an extremely ballsy play, Lee.
Yeah, that was sick.
That was really... I was pretty certain you guys would have a borderline failure on this one because you'd have to sacrifice one of those two things. But no, that was a success.
My whole thinking for like the last 40 minutes has been like, I'm not going to move. As soon as it feels like things are done, I am just popping the queen immediately.
Indeed.
Like, I've been like sitting there this whole time.
I
Like,
was
I'm gonna
waiting.
shoot her. I'm gonna
I
shoot
was
her.
waiting for it. But I will say that when there was two things that allowed this to work out the way it was. First of all, when you chose to open your eyes underwater, I'd be like, yeah, he has to see it at this point. I had that thing planted from the beginning of the frickin' mission. And so that, and then the call to cut down the 5 who are unarmored, which was fucking brilliant. uh,
My
let's
hand.
let's briefly review characters. I'll go through it quickly. First of all, Kat, Justine is wonderful and delightful as always. It was hysterical seeing her in this setting. She brought some much needed levity. And in many ways, Justine is, I sometimes use the term public face for certain characters who are like the envoy of the mission to other people they encounter. Vadim was kind of doing that here as well. But you did the Justine thing of like being immune to damage. Which was necessary on this one. And I did design the enemies such that they would be ones that you would be able to interface with a lot, right? I thought it was extremely fun to follow her, and you put yourself where you needed to be cleanly right at the end. I think that as Lee was suggesting in character, like adjacently, doing a by the wayside on the Pearl would have been risky, but potentially really cool. Of course, the Queen could have seen it as like desecrating her daughter. So risky. And I should note, you used not a single ability on that mission and still made an impact.
Yeah,
I didn't notice that. That's rad.
I was trying to figure out where things would come in, and I was like, I don't really have backup to like be down and kind of dazed.
Yeah.
I don't want to take that chance and have like something stab me in the back.
Indeed. I saw one
face.
Miss. I saw one miss, which was fork in the road at the beginning. That was the only miss I saw.
Yeah, well, and I wanted to use fork in the road a couple of times, but I was like, I'm just not sure here. So I'm not gonna.
Yeah, your triple luck came into play like multiple times.
Yeah.
Oh,
I like being lucky.
Luck. We love Trip's luck.
Also, I don't know if you're already planning on this, but tech into Vitality. Justine is like the Vitality queen. You use Vitality so well.
Oh, my lord.
Definitely play Vitality.
Yeah, that's why I gave myself an extra point in this level up. I was like, yeah, I do use that. I like to distract people and be like, hey, look at me. Don't pay attention to them over there. I'm more important. I'm shiny.
I thought that your interactions with Vadim were awesome. You chose him as the I know you from a previous mission guy, and it actually ended up making for some like really solid interactions. Again, bringing some much needed levity to what would have been a very severe mission. I made the Mog cute so that you would have something to play off of for that specifically. Because I thought it would be
so well.
Cute.
Yeah, I wanted to make like a cute enemy you didn't feel bad killing, or like other people didn't feel bad killing. Because as you correctly said, you'll just go back to your queen. Yep, exactly right. They are part of the water cycle. They just keep coming. So,
having them die like snowballs was very it worked well for watering down, pun intended, their deaths.
Indeed.
I think if they were like flesh and blood creatures, it would have been way harder.
It would have been so much. I wasn't going to do that to you. I knew Vadim could do it, but I'd never played with Rhiannon before. I knew that if they were like flesh and blood creatures, there's not a single fucking way Justine would be okay with that.
Nope.
So
I think Rhiannon would have been okay because I mean Hunter,
exactly.
But
you would have
like,
gotten over it. I see that now, right?
Right. But no, for sure, it was a good call to make them snowballs.
Speaking of which, I want to talk about Rhiannon. What a lovely character. Your speech was gorgeous. Lovely.
You.
I designed the mission the way I did because I wanted to try to give you an in as a new character to like try to leverage some things besides your class, and I thought you did a beautiful job of picking up on it and working with it. Your positioning and information gathering were freaking huge. Like the fact, okay, I don't know if you realize this now, but them coming up the sides, you realize correctly, that's very dangerous. They would have just jumped on you guys way before the queen became a thing. And so holding them back on the top, big. Very, very big. I like that a lot. And I thought that your brief combat scene with Vadim, in some ways, goofy though it was a great kind of establishing shot for getting your character's like combat legs, I guess. And that's kind of what I wanted to give you an opportunity to before fighting broke out. I love the character, and I would love to see her again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to have that happen as well. She's a favorite character of mine. I need more like art of her and stuff. Her original game dying is one of the saddest things that I've experienced with D&D.
Indeed. Yeah.
But yeah, no, this has been really cool. Honestly, Standoff was the ability I was most excited to use because it was the most role play heavy one.
It is. Yeah.
And I mean, I've been sitting on that for days. I was just like, I'm so excited. This is so cool.
That's sick. Well, you paid it off. I'd say that for when you do eventually get to level Rhiannon, I think teching her harder into spirit could be really cool. Definitely don't have to, but I could see it being a cool way to build
for
her.
sure. I would have if I weren't also trying to like focus on some of the other things.
Of course, there's a lot to cover with her.
Yeah, well, being perceptive and insightful is very important to her character, but I opted for perceptive first over insightful.
Of course. Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, but no, I've definitely had that thought too, that like spirit needs to be an investment.
And
later.
you did 2 clean manifestations. There was actually an interesting hook where one of the reasons that your magic was so conducive here is I deliberately made it so that one of the local magics of the humans here was like spring-based magic. And so there was a way that this mission could have played where you like tapped into that more. But lastly, Vatim, I've seen Vatim a lot. This is his second time dealing with crazy ice ladies.
He's got a
both
type?
times. Oh my no! His first mission, this was frozen in a block of ice.
Indeed.
Oh shit!
And so I was like trying when I got the focus words. I like, I have this idea, but god damn it, I don't want to give Vadim another crazy ice lady again. I think I have to though, because the focus words. Incredible. This is my favorite mission that Vadim has been on. Between your awesome character moments and your really good calls, it was just awesome to watch. Also, incredibly smart uses of all of your abilities. Just every single one a coconut. Amazing. I mean, you know that you've been playing this game for fucking ever. It was just an extremely good,
7 years.
Yeah.
It was so cool to watch both of you guys play. Honestly.
Yeah.
It was a
Thank you.
delight.
So really cool to watch you play. Oh my god, you were phenomenal. Everyone was so good. What the hell?
And I think that one of the things I like is that every single one of you was good in a different way. And you all took different roles on the mission, which is something I love to see. I'll very briefly say that the way that I did the focus words on this mission, Contortion of the Third River, had to do with both the meltwater and also the way by which the princess was killed, which you didn't get to see. Or get into much. Fairest and Fallen, Greetings and Defiance. I think that's pretty obvious. It's the queen. And metabolic rate of water bears was the pearl at the bottom.
Okay.
You know, I was like, when I think metabolic rate of water bears, I think stasis. And I also was already on like a water track. So I was like, the princess is dead, but that piece of her that the queen contributed to make her is still there, right? And so, tough focus words, but I'm pretty happy with where we came to with them.
I am too. It was a
was-
sick story.
Fantastic.
Lovely. Do you guys have questions for me about calls I made, elements of the plot, or thoughts on the mission more generally and similar? I'd love to hear them.
Was the person who killed the princess still alive at the end?
No.
Woo!
Goated with the sauce.
Was that person still alive at the start?
Yes.
Did we kill?
You got
good,
him.
Okay, good.
Good call, Vadim.
That was really, really
Indication.
smart. Really, really good play. That's why I was like, holy shit, that's actually just correct. That's actually the good... Fuck me.
You found the right answer.
That was amazing.
It was the secret third thing all along.
Other questions or thoughts? I'd love to hear them.
I really had fun with my skirt of endless pockets tonight.
Indeed.
Thank you for letting me just pull shenanigans literally out of my ass.
Well, up until the last one, every single one of them was like entirely reasonable, and the last one was like plausible. So I was like, I'll give it, right?
Hey,
She
I
seems
gotta
she'd
keep my
have
hair
those
good.
things.
Yeah. The goofiest thing that like pushed it the most was your surfing idea, but the conversation leading up to it was so funny that I was like, oh, well, I feel like the water pressure would probably be working on the window. Fuck it, let's just do it. That sounds awesome. So that was like the biggest stretch that I had to make for Justine today.
I was definitely operating on cartoon logic, but that's your fault because you gave me
that's
little
how-
snow buddies with dandelion hair.
Indeed.
So I went cartoon 110%.
Not really a question or even necessarily a comment on the game as a whole.
Yeah.
High key thought of Tilda Swinton as the White Witch from Lion the Witch and the Wardrobe. High key thought of her as the like model for the Queen. I know you said she's like insectoid and all that jazz, but like I was like, no, it's just Tilda Swinton as the White Witch. I'm there with you. We're good. Let's go.
Indeed. There's a couple things I was modeling her on. I don't want to get like too deep in the weeds because I'll be talking for a long time. But like there's like an archetype of Snow Queen that you see in like a lot of cultures and mythologies, and I wanted to do like that, but like with a little couple twists on it, right? I love archetypes and then slightly changing them to make it not just the archetype.
Sure. The cuttlefish like color pattern stuff reflecting her emotional state. Wonderful touch. Delightful.
Lovely. I'm so glad you like that. I wanted to give you guys a little more than just Vadim and Rhiannon's spirit stats to work off of. So I figured that like they ended up both being relevant, but like I wanted to make it like a little less impenetrable because imagine if she was just like staring at you and you're just like, God damn it. Plus red snow, cool,
Yeah, no, for sure. I think I had something else and I lost it now. It's good. It's fine. Wasn't important, probably.
No problem. Final thoughts?
Whew. I missed my hand.
I mean, the good news is you can get it back.
You'll
so
get
that's
it back.
Something.
Indeed.
I mean, you didn't chop it off. You still
No.
have your hand. Your
Oh, no,
fingers
yeah,
are just
I know.
mangled.
I mean, even if you did,
but I miss it.
Yeah,
even
so
if
do
you
the
did lose it
ladies.
completely. Like we could put a sword.
Nobody wants a
there.
cold hand. Nobody wants
Hey,
a cold hand.
On
Come
a hot
on.
summer day, sometimes it's nice.
I would like, Madam, can I introduce you and my good friend Frostbite?
Yeah. All right, friendos, I guess that's as good a place as ever to wrap it. To all those of you who have watched through with us, and to anyone who is watching the video in demand, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed yourselves. I've certainly enjoyed myself. You three played it beautifully. And a reminder to everyone to subscribe to the DDG YouTube channel and to follow their Twitch. They are fantastic. I am intensely grateful that they continue to host me here. And make sure, once again, if you want to check out Enclave, follow the link to my Discord wherever it is handy, either in the description or on the site or wherever else. And on my Discord server, we are going to be doing an event at the very end of April called Enclave Day, where anyone, even if they do not have the game, can borrow it for the day in order to play, and for those who do have the game, actually get a chance to see a brand new class being added to it. So, got a lot of cool things. DDG, you guys are fantastic. Make sure to follow them on all their stuff. And my friends, feel free to sign yourselves off in the order you introduced yourselves. If you can
I
remember.
want to say that was Kat, Lee, and then me, wasn't it?
Yes, I think it was.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for remembering.
Well, I've been Cheese Cat this evening. You can go ahead and follow me at Cheese Cat. Well, actually, I think it's Cheese Cat over on the TikToks. I pop in here to play Enclave on Twitch for the DDG. And you'll also find me on our Discord, just shit posting because I'm a goblin and it's okay.
I'm Lee. Again, I don't really have a lot of social media. I help with Enclave. Hopefully, we'll see any of you who are watching either here or on the VOD at some of the upcoming cons we're going to be heading out to. I think Rising Phoenix in a couple, like, what, a week? 2 weeks?
3 weeks.
Time is an illusion, and so is pants. But thanks for watching. This is always such a blast.
Lovely.
Awesome. I'm Avalon, or I was Avalon. I will continue to be, I'm sure. You can find me generally on alternating Saturdays over with Enchanting Sorcery Productions, D&D 5e homebrew game. Otherwise, I voice act off and on, mostly in audio dramas and comedies and other sorts of scripted podcasts. Taking a little bit of a break from that for right now. But I mean, I pop up every so often. You'll hear me around if you listen to podcasts at all. Otherwise, hopefully I'll be here again. This was awesome, and I want to do more of it. Yeah.
Wonderful to hear you say it. The very last thing we'll do before signing out is name the mission. We have a couple of good ones in here. Snow Way Out is a very funny one. They posted some options in chat. I like that a lot. But I will say, I think A Mother's Cold Heart is probably my favorite of these. So
Yeah.
His mission is titled A Mother's Cold Heart as of now. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you continue to enjoy Enclave. And as always, my name is Robby Howell. And ciao for now. End scene.